looks good, and he looks hard.
Interesting.
It's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
What? So hot right now. Come on!
Your name, please?
It's a great day. For being sad.
So hot right now.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
juncture.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Close it up, just like my wife's vagina.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't be creepy.
Well, it is in my space fams once again. Fantastic to see all you folks here. Oh, we've got a hell of a lot to look at today, so better get yourselves ready. Seatbelts fastened. Got a long road ahead of us. Time to take a little trip into the void. Oh god. Well, sorry for the delay. Stream today. Unfortunately, I may have thrown my back out earlier and just just managing to keep myself together enough to be able to hopefully bring you this entire stream. Fingers crossed, chat. Alright. Let's start here in America, as usual. This is coming out of ABC 13, Houston, where a teen was shot in gunfire between drivers.
And more breaking news from overnight, a shootout following a car crash at a Northwest Houston intersection.
And we're told 3 people were shot in all of this. Now, this gunfire erupting on West Rankin.
What's happening?
Ella, that's in the Greens Point area. ABC 13's Rosie Nguyen is live. And Rosie, we also know a 16-year-old was hit in the gunfire.
Yeah, Charlie and Brandon investigate.
Hold on. Everything is suddenly lagging. Hold the phone. Hold on. Let me make sure. Just gonna switch back. Gotta check the stream health by way of the void lamp. Alright, void lamp. How are you? Well, you're like at I wanna say you're like at 80%. That's not great. And the earth is looking real glitchy right now. But it's rotating, which is good. We are at least moving. But yes, you have pointed out a fact there, PB. Slight lag today. Not sure what to attribute it to, but we're going to try and push through since it's not looking horrific. I'm just going to try and restart this because it totally lagged the fuck out.
And we're told 3 people were shot in all of this. Now, this gunfire erupting on West Rankin near Ella. That's in the Greens Point area. ABC 13's Rosie Nguyen is live. And Rosie, we also know a 16-year-old was hit in the gunfire.
Yeah, Charlie and Brandon, investigators say that 16-year-old was just standing on the corner near a taco stand when he was hit by the gunfire. They say that he was not related to the initial conflict and was taken to the hospital for treatment. This is what we know so far.
Unbelievable. This kid, 16 years old, just getting a taco, gets shot because people are having a goddamn gun battle on the street. Shit is out of control.
About what happened. Houston police say they received multiple calls about a shooting just shortly before 8:30 p.m. last night. They tell us that 2 cars, a black GMC and silver Chevy, initially got into a minor crash. One person from each car allegedly got out of their cars and began shooting at each other. We're told both of them were injured. Investigators say there were multiple witnesses. Here's what one of them had to say.
I didn't know what to do. I was afraid they were going to shoot me because I was right on the stuff. And that truck, he wouldn't let me pass, so I had to go around him because I had to do some work right now. And I called 911.
We're told that the driver of the GMC is in critical condition at the hospital after being
Oh boy. Well, that's a unfortunate story. Alright, speaking about gun violence, Democracy Now! Did a piece about 11 hours ago. According to them, the NYPD has killed a Bangladeshi teen, Win Rosario, after he called 911 for help. This is that story.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show looking at another case that set off protests and demands for justice. The police fatal shooting of Win Rosario, a 19-year-old Bangladeshi teen who lives here in New York City in Queens. A warning to our listeners and viewers, the story contains descriptions and footage of police violence, including sounds of gunshots. In late March, Win Rosario called 911 asking for help as he experienced a mental health crisis. 2 NYPD officers arrived at the family's home, one of them shooting Win at least 4 times, less than 2 minutes after entering his house. The NYPD claimed Rosario came at the officers with a pair of scissors when they fired at him. But now police body cam footage has been released. It shows Wynn was standing on the other side of the kitchen, several feet away from the officers. They've been identified as Matthew Cianfrocco and Salvatore Alonghi. The officers first repeatedly tased Wynn. His mother, Notan Eva Costa, attempted to shield her son, begging police not to shoot him. One officer is heard yelling, quote, "Tell her to get the F out of the way." This is a portion of the body cam footage. You can see Wynn's mother begging and pleading with police officers not to shoot her son.
This shit is fucking nonsense right here, okay? Why are there two cops, guns loaded and ready to fire inside of a fucking, what appears to be like a one-bedroom apartment or something? This is fucking insane. Dude doesn't have a gun, and yet they feel the need to pull out deadly weapons in a moment of a health crisis.
Rid of the Second Amendment?
Please do not shoot my mom. Get her out of the way. I'm so sorry. Get her out of the way now.
Get out of the way now, get out of the way now. Instead of saying, calm down. But whatever, you know, I think he had like a pair of like kitchen scissors or something, you know? Instead of trying to de-escalate, instead of trying to, you know, use any ounce of intelligence to try and keep the situation from going too far, they immediately pull out their weapons. Immediately. That shouldn't be the immediate response.
No! Satchel, get in the car! Put it down!
Notan Eva Costa, an immigrant from Bangladesh, spoke at a news conference outside New York City Hall last week.
These police were grown men with guns. They didn't have to kill my child. I tried to protect my son. I begged the police not to shoot, but the police still killed him.
Wynn's younger brother...
You know, this might be an unpopular statement, but if you're afraid of scissors, you shouldn't be a cop.
Also heard telling the police officers Wynn was having an episode and didn't even know what he's doing. This is 17-year-old Ucho Rosario at last week's news conference.
My name is Ucho, and Wynn was my older brother, and I miss him every day. Wynn wasn't just my brother, he was my friend and someone that I could talk to and a role model. In the morning, he would usually wake up before me, and when I woke up, he used to give me a big hug. Alonghi and San Francisco stole that hug from me, from my brother. Wynn had a strong sense of right and wrong. He would always try to do the right thing. He was determined and disciplined. When we first moved to the country, we didn't really know what basketball was. And when we used to play basketball, people used to make fun of us in the court. So Wynn spent months training himself so he could become better than the people that he played with. And in a few months, he became better than the people that played for their whole life. The people that's supposed to serve and protect us are the ones that's killing us. The police was so aggressive and reckless that they could have killed my mom and me too in our own house.
Exactly.
If someone...
Exactly, they're just unloading in the middle of a goddamn... in someone's home. It's just fucking insane. And he's the one who called them. That is not what should... So much could have been done. Did the Celtics lose tonight? I do not know. Since my back is fucked up right now, I really barely got myself together for the stream. Unfortunately, I got into a really bad car accident when I was in college. And if I don't keep my physical like health to a certain level, if I'm not like constantly like working out and keeping myself fit, my back will come back and punch me for it very aggressively. and in ways that I don't appreciate. Like, just being, like, I had to spend, like, 30, 45 minutes or something just trying to, like, get the rest of my body fucking, like, moving. It was fucking full-on disaster. Hold on, we can't watch this whole thing because it's, like, kind of long, but there's another part of this that I definitely want us to watch, so just hold on a second.
Officers be fired and criminally charged. For more, we're joined by New York City Council member Shahana Hanif.
Hold on.
His family and social justice community organizers are demanding the officers be fired and criminally charged. For more, we're joined by New York City Council member Shahana Hanif, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus and the Task Force to Combat Hate. She's the daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants, the first Bangladeshi American New York City Council member. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. You were one of the people at the news conference. Tell us more about what happened. I mean, how many times when someone is in a mental health crisis, their family members call? Wynn called himself and said, I need help.
That's right. What we've seen and learned from the family is that Wynn had called 911 in an acute mental health crisis, and as soon as officers arrived, 2 officers arrived on the scene, but we see that they were upset. Their tone was that of cruelty, and right from going up into the house, meeting Wynn and his brother and his mother, they shot him. They killed him. He needed help. And what they did instead is kill him.
And explain, I mean, Ucho says it very clearly, Wynn's younger brother. I mean, Wynn was only 19 years old. Ucho says, they could have killed me and my mother. I mean, they were wrapped around their Wynn's mother.
It's a complete and utter disregard for human life. You know? Makes me so mad. Makes me so fucking mad.
Well over 100,000 mental health calls a year. How should they be responding in a case like this? I mean, this one clearly identified as a mental health crisis.
Sure, and that's where activists, advocates, and elected officials like myself, Progressive Caucus members, are saying we need to be better attuned to what the needs are of folks calling 911. What we learned is that the Rosario family had not been new to this precinct. So someone like him should have signaled to the NYPD or that precinct that, hey, we need to bring in some social workers or some mental health practitioners so that he gets the full assistance that he needs on demand. Other cities have shown us the way to do this. New York City has a very small pilot called Be Heard in some zip codes. So,
which we need a lot more of. The fact is a gun and a badge is not a solution to all of society's fucking problems, right? And that's what we've tried to do with the cops, and that's why they have massive fucking budgets, and that it's just all of it's just completely skewed in this disgusting sort of disregard of humanity, right? We just kind of say, oh, badge and a gun will fix it. No, usually it won't. Usually, in most cases, it's really not necessary. We just need somebody in there with an actual brain and an IQ over 100 to say, "Hey, this is a bad situation. I see what's happening, and let's just try and calm down right now. I get that you're having a difficult time. Let's talk about it. You know, whatever. You know, someone with the capability and the wherewithal to actually talk people down who are having a difficult mental health situation. Not people who are there to escalate things, because that's genuinely what cops seem to do almost always. Okay. And this is like 20 minutes long, and there's been a bunch of stuff like this happening, and just unfortunately You know, we either sometimes I miss a thing, but I've been trying to, you know, cover as much of this as I possibly can. It's just insane that we're still dealing with this. Won't find many 110 plus IQ cops. Yeah. Well, social workers. Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, let the social workers call the cops when they believe that. Yeah, that's actually that's an interesting solution. Okay, I see where you're going with that. Sort of a tiered system. People without guns first. I do like that idea. Just genuinely seems like the best. Fucking hell. All right, let's move on. At least from gun violence, not from the United States. We have a few things to talk about with the United States today. Number of things here. First, though, let's talk quickly about this. Where Donald Trump came out from his hush money trial to speak with the press again and say things that I would argue absolutely violate this fucking gag order of his, and I am genuinely interested to know why the judge is not actually following through on their threat to put Donald Trump in jail for interfering with the trial. But hey, I'm not a judge, or a lawyer for that matter. But let's listen to a little piece of this.
District Trump, why do you have lawmakers with you today?
Because they chose to show up. They view this as a scam. I think it's a terrible thing that's happening to democracy in this country, and we have a lot of them. They want to come. I say just stay back and pass lots of laws to stop things like this. J.D. Vance, what's going on in that courtroom is a threat to democracy, and we cannot have a country where we get to prosecute your political opponent instead of persuading voters. A.G. Bird, as you know, very...
You'll notice that a few times that the lawyer looks over at him, and in my mind, every time he looks over, he's like, "You're definitely varying from the statement, and you're saying crazy thing." Could be wrong. To be this guy, though,
highly respected from
like the guy to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't commit any more crimes. Oh my God, I'm just realizing you all have a bunch of. My back is throwing me off so much. I didn't even realize you're all getting a free Neo and a free Jessica and a free Captain Planet. I'm so sorry, chat, but I have to stick to my guns here. But I assume we have at least 10 likes, right? Do we have at least 10 likes? Can we get one? Oh, we have 20 likes. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. Wow, you're all killing it. Well done. There's a 5. What does 5 get us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, 5 is Morty. That's the first time we've gotten Morty since we started rolling dice. Rude. Look. I'm just sticking to the rules that have been established previous to this stream. And I understand your frustration, but we don't need that many more likes to get us to more characters. I'm just going to point that out to you. Okay, alright, back to this silly statement from Trump.
Iowa, let the American people decide who the next leader of the free world will be. Politics is absolutely no place in this courtroom. This is all politics. Andy McCarthy, great legal analyst, said none of this is illegal. There's nothing illegal. It's called politics. There's nothing illegal.
Jesus Christ. Hold on. I think his statement gets even crazier somewhere around here, I want to say. It's 7 minutes of just him saying that it's a witch hunt.
Because of what took place. When he saw that they were
Oh my God, there's a riot in chat right now? Why is there a riot in chat? Because we lost Jessica Fletcher? Look, we can get her back, okay? We can get back with Jessica Fletcher. We can get back Captain Planet. It's doable. Get back John Wick.
Even Michael Smirkanish of CNN, a person 4 or 5 weeks into a trial ought to be told exactly that which they're being prosecuted for, and that hasn't happened. You know why it happened? Because it didn't happen for one very simple reason, because there is no crime. Here's Mark Thiessen. I don't think things are going very well in the court of law.
Oh my god, I love this. Do you see him looking over his shoulder trying to read what he's reading? He's like, wait a sec, I don't remember writing this. I don't remember us going over this right now.
And in the court of public opinion, they're doing even worse. Matt Whitaker, another day at trial, and they're keeping the president off the campaign trail. Byron York on the hush money trial, which is not hush money.
Sorry, we can't listen to this whole thing. But it's just basically him saying words and phrases that he thinks his base will relate to for about 7 minutes straight. He is taking crazy pills.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay. Only 3 likes more. Is that true? Oh, we're only 2 likes away. Holy shit. You're all so close. See? What was I saying? It would take almost no effort. What was that? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? And suddenly, the whole world just opens up. I'm sorry. Alright, I'm done. Okay, let's look at this, which I found to be, I don't know if concerning is the right word, but frustrating and annoying and definitely hypocritical. Anyways, let's just look at it. You'll see. This is from 6 hours ago. Eyewitness ABC. Cookbook author speaks out after a billboard controversy.
Well, we are all used to the ads that blanket Times Square, right? Well, one of them was just taken down, and it wasn't for a lingerie ad or one that would typically be considered racy. Instead, it was for lactation cookies.
Yeah, this is the ad featuring New York Times bestselling cookbook author Molly Baz. It's part of her partnership showing off the cookies that help postpartum moms produce healthy breast milk for their babies.
Again, not a lingerie ad. Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon is in the newsroom with much more on this controversy. Sonia.
Yeah, Liz, the digital billboard was supposed to celebrate breastfeeding moms, but after only 3 days, Molly Baz was told the 45-foot ad marketing her so-called lactation cookies was being taken down.
It's super disheartening and infuriating to me that my kind of first public foray into being a public mother was one that was deemed inappropriate.
This is how the cookie crumbled for cookbook author Molly Baz. She says her lactation cookie ad, meant to help new moms, was on her bucket list, but it quickly turned into a lesson in hypocrisy.
There's a lot of irony if you look around the landscape at Times Square of what's going on and what historically is deemed an ad that's appropriate for a public space. I know that this is a systemic issue that exists in...
Okay, real quick. So, where do they actually... Yeah, okay, so here, because of it, like, we can see her ad, we've seen her ad, right? And she's trying to help mothers with lactation.
For acceptable content, and that's why it was taken down. But Baz is now sharing photos of similar ads that also appear in Times Square, of people in underwear showing just as much skin.
Exactly.
There's a bit of a history.
When I heard this, I was like, am I losing my mind? Like, I feel like I've seen so many ads with people basically naked in Times Square. What is the problem here? And, oh God, 32 likes. Jesus Christ. Sharp. Oh. Well, look at that. Look at that. Rolled a 4. You get a Jessica. Okay. But seriously, like, it's just so hypocritical.
Of I will say a double standard that when bodies, specifically breasts, are shown when it comes to selling lingerie, let's say, that's more acceptable. But when it's something having to do with prenatal wellness or postnatal care, nursing, that tends to get flagged.
It's ridiculous. I don't understand why why somehow that's less appropriate than someone grabbing, like, because did you see the last picture that we were focused on? It was basically two people in their underwear. It was a woman reaching into a man's underwear, and somehow that's deemed more appropriate than this poor woman trying to advertise her cookbook for prenatal health. And I guess postnatal health too. Okay. Of course, you're welcome. Well, the dice is what gave you it. It wasn't me. It said 4, so I had to go with 4. Plus, you were all yelling it. So if it hadn't been 4, maybe I would have switched it to 4. But I didn't have to. That's the good thing. What is this? What is this link you've just thrown in, chat? What am I supposed to do with that? Okay. Moving along. Where are we at right now? How far? How deep? 39. I might save this one for later. No, since we're already talking about this, we're going to talk about this as well. Where feds in Canada are urging Ontario to step up its childcare funding. Figured appropriate to discuss this happening in Canada while that was happening in New York.
Several Liberal cabinet ministers were at a daycare in Ontario today re-announcing over $200 million in funding to create more childcare spaces in the province. The money is part of the federal government's National Childcare Plan. The program is supposed to deliver $10 a day childcare across the country. But some provinces are taking longer than expected to reach that goal, including Ontario. The CBC's Karina Roman joins me live from Ottawa. So, Karina, the ministers took questions after their announcement. What stood out to you from that Q&A?
Well, none of the questions on the announcement itself really stood out because it was the pointed answers from the Minister Jenna Sudds that really stood out. She was asked, how is the money that they're re-announcing today going to help that area in particular? Why are other provinces at $10 a day already when Ontario is double that on average? Sudds said that, you know, there is an expectation that Ontario will be there by 2026, but that's, 2 years from now.
That is 2 years from now. Weird. Let's just move forward to where they actually made a statement. Where's that?
That's a consequence,
So, yeah, this
unfortunately,
is the, Minister of Families.
a delay of process with respect to the province of Ontario coming forward with a sustainable long-term funding formula for providers. The province is responsible to foster those relationships, to get input and to work with the providers and to flow the money so that providers have that sustainability and know that they can confidently continue to provide high-quality services, but also to grow the number of spaces.
I do hope that works. I don't know if it will, but I'm going to stay optimistic about it. Okay. I have to sit in a very specific position, or my back is just kind of yelling quietly into my ear. Okay. Alright, we're going to skip to this. I'm going to skip one. We're going to go straight to this. This is a very, very recently developing story. But let's look at some of the context of this. This is from 3 weeks ago, where Red Lobster considers bankruptcy. This is Fox LA.
Researchers have...
Oh, there we go.
Like Red Lobster needs to sell a lot more of those Cheddar Bay biscuits. I know. No one is more upset than I mean, listen, I used to love Red Lobster growing up.
Biscuits are amazing.
Yes,
God.
they're so good. Well, according to Bloomberg, The company is now considering filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The seafood chain has long-term contract issues and rising labor costs. It also added a new CEO last month who is considered an expert in restructuring.
An expert in restructuring, meaning he's probably from like private equity or something and is just gutting the company. Anyway, let's look at how well that restructuring is going. This is from 5 hours ago from ABC Buffalo, I think.
Well, developing tonight, the days of endless shrimp and cheesy biscuits may be gone. Red Lobster quietly shutting down stores all across the country, including right here in Western New York. And as 7 News reporter Hannah Ferreira explains tonight, employees were caught by surprise.
3 Red Lobster locations in Western New York, all with the same sign found taped to their doors Monday, reading, "This location is closed," in what appears to be a nationwide occurrence. Ramon Garcia tells me he found out he lost his job at the Hamburg Red Lobster not from corporate, but from the cook.
I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm getting calls after calls this morning, and he called, my boy Don called me. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should come in right now." I was like, "Why? I'm off today." He's like, "Man, you just need to come in because there's a lot of stuff going on."
But what corporate did tell them?
We got 3 days to clean out the restaurant.
According to recent...
You got 3 days to clean out an entire restaurant. Okay. Interesting. Oh, they're blaming the workers. Yes, they were blaming the workers rather than just, you know, taking less CEO pay or something like that would be detrimental. Might as well just gut it, sell it. Blame the workers while you're at it for wanting a living wage. How dare you? How dare you work in a restaurant and struggle to pay for food? It's clearly your fault. Or that's what I would say if I was a complete monster. Alright, let's look at this. Clean out how? Good question. I wouldn't even ask the question if I were them. I would just, you know, hey, you told us to clean it all out. Well, it's all gone. Bye. Alright, let's look at this. Moving on to infrastructure and other sort of tech-related stuff here in America. Well, to some degree, it's a little complicated. This is from 6 days ago from CNBC. Why American automakers are failing in China. Oh, good question. Tell me, why are they failing?
Just 4 decades ago, private car ownership was unheard of in China.
For most people in a country where private cars still don't exist, the journey to work is still by flying pigeon bicycle.
And there was almost no auto industry in the country. But now it is the largest auto market in the world by far. Some of the biggest beneficiaries of this meteoric rise were foreign automakers, including American ones. They made piles of money. But the good...
Why do they have to clean it out? Let the owners clean it out. Here, this is just a complete guess, shot in the dark. But my initial assumption about why that's happening is because they would rather not have to go and find other people to clean it out. Since there's already workers there, they're going to pay those people a last paycheck, if you will, to do the dirty work for them, right? That's just my feeling about it, you know. Could be wrong, but it you know, it's the sort of move I feel like a cost-saving enterprise would be all about.
Times have come to an end, and their future in the country is seriously threatened.
Detroit is under pressure in China, and that for the same reasons they're losing in China, they could very easily lose globally.
Lured by the promise of access to a burgeoning market of, at the time, more than 1 billion people, global automakers agreed to strict trade rules and taught inexperienced Chinese partners a lot about making cars.
For a long time, it was worth it. Foreign companies enjoyed prestige and popularity, but Chinese firms caught up fast, to the point that foreign firms are now being pushed out. The new market isn't quite like the state-owned industry one might imagine. Many top firms are privately owned. There are fewer restrictions. It's highly competitive. New models can come to market in a fraction of the time it takes.
It's stuff like this that makes me kind of laugh when people say, oh, China's a communist country. No, that's just the name of their political party. While a lot of companies do have to have some sort of, what do you call it? Just like a minor sort of relationship with the government. Oftentimes it's not even with the federal government, and it's usually very much owned by private hands. China has really bought into the whole capitalism thing. And now people are mad they're doing kind of good at it.
Makers elsewhere in the world, and always at lower prices. Increasingly, Chinese consumers prefer to buy Chinese brands, and the CEOs who run these companies have close and direct relationships with their customers.
We're certainly not going to watch this whole 20-minute freaking piece from CNBC, so hold on, let me get us to the parts I think we need here.
China's automotive industry dates back to the early 1980s. Two Chinese automakers formed joint ventures with foreign manufacturers, one with an American firm, another with a German one. The industry was tiny at the time. The first vehicle, the Volkswagen Santana, sold 1,700 units and dominated the market. The only vehicle buyers were government institutions and the like.
Concept of...
Okay, I'm just gonna help us move forward through this faster because I don't want to stay focused on this for too long. But just to give you 40 years worth of automotive Chinese history in about 5 seconds, a lot of those auto manufacturers that you just saw listed in front of you on the infographic wound up either buying out or merging with other European manufacturers like MG, Lotus, among others, and then they gained a lot of the technology that they were lacking in their early car manufacturing, and now they're where they're at. But let's move here. Yeah.
So here is how it happened. First, Chinese cars improved by a lot.
When Chinese firms first started exporting, and they started too soon, as the Koreans did 30 years earlier, they didn't have the requisite quality. They failed miserably in many crash tests, particularly in Europe.
Sorry, I actually want us to go even further.
The image many non-Chinese may have of the Chinese economy is one where the central government controls these large state-owned enterprises. That's partly true, but there's a lot of nuance. 3 of China's major automakers are controlled by the central government in Beijing, but most of them are owned by provincial or municipal governments. A few are completely private.
It's not all operating perfectly according to market principles, but if you look at the number of producers and the number of models, it is by far the most competitive market in the world.
You know, they probably will surprise a lot of people, especially given this year's bloodbath, right, of pricing pressure, economic headwind, trying to push these vehicles out into the marketplace at lower.
Yeah, and that's what we're about to talk about next, with a even newer development. Oh, by the way, I just noticed this, and I was trying to wait until a good spot. But if you're on a really old phone, or not like a really old phone, but one that's struggling with battery, because it's, you've had it for a few years and they intentionally give you batteries that kind of suck, my recommendation to you is to turn off haptics on your phone. That should decrease a lot of your battery usage. You don't think about it, but having that tiny servo motor in there, or whatever it is, I don't think it's technically a servo, actually. Is it? No, I think it might be. Either way, having that tiny little motor in there going off all the time is it actually kind of sucks your battery dry. Okay, focusing on more important shit. Let's look at this. This is from 13 hours ago. Inexpensive Seagull electric car has U.S. automakers and politicians trembling with fear. Haptics is
We're looking
odds
at
bad.
a BYD Seagull. This vehicle was recently introduced and kind of caught the auto industry, really caught their attention. It's an immediate threat to our European customers as they see it coming into their shores. Here in North America, we look at it and say, though it's not homologated, with relatively modest investments, they most likely could, and it could become a competitive threat here. We bought the vehicle in China, but because we have a global presence, we're able to ship the vehicle, and we shipped it here. When you drive it, you can drive it in our parking lot. You cannot drive it on the road. It is not legal in our country, and we don't have license plate on it as a result, because they're so highly vertically integrated at their labor rates, in their process, in their environment, a tremendous cost advantage. And so that's why they're bringing forward a vehicle priced in this $11,000 range.
$11,000 for an electric car. That's why the U.S. is scared as fuck of China right now, because of stuff like that, where they're innovating better than U.S. companies, because U.S. companies are too busy buying back their own stocks to make better, cheaper products for the market, and so they have to completely what's the word? Pervert the the system they supposedly tout, capitalism, and they block products like this from coming to us because it would be unfair to U.S. companies who aren't trying that hard, honestly. I have to look something up. I have to. Really? Yeah. They banned this car from entering America. It's too cheap. It's too hard for American companies to compete. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but yes. So this is last year. This is from S&P Capital IQ. Ford Motor Company announces a share repurchase program. Under that program, the company will repurchase up to 51 million common shares. The purpose of that program is to offset the dilutive effect of stock-based compensation. So yeah, that was just a one time in 2023. They just decided, let's buy back 51 million shares at the cost of $1 billion or something like that. They're not using the money to improve their company, to improve products, to try and actually compete with the supposed free market that they all love so much. Nope, they'd rather, make shittier cars and get you to pay even more for them. Meanwhile, enriching themselves as much as possible. And that's just Ford. And in one particular instance, if we started looking up all the automakers and how many stock buybacks they've done, and in fact, Ford isn't even a really good example. Let me think about this. Tesla. How much? Well, it looks like Elon Musk has been considering buying back $10 billion worth of Tesla stock recently. I'm not sure if they've ever done buybacks. Huh. Interesting. So they just suck. They just want money. They just want more money for their shittier cars. Okay, cool. Cool. I would have expected Tesla to have done some stock buybacks there. Alright, let's move on. So this is footage. Shit. By the way, turn down your volume. Sorry. But this is the demolition of the other half of the Baltimore Bridge, which is still on top of this boat in the bay. R.I.P. your eardrums. Yes, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. Elon invested $1 billion into Dogecoin of Tesla money. Interesting. Okay. Well, speaking about cars, transportation, and all that, I figured this would be something, of importance for us to take a look at. Wait, what is the what the fuck? Why are you WTFing me right now? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everyone's ears. I apologize. You got an Obama phone? Wow. Impressive. It's like a relic now. Okay. Anyway, yeah, discussing cars and tech and all this other stuff. Let's look at this video. Just came out from A More Perfect Union, where they dug into Uber's finances and what they found, according to them, and possibly me, well, it might shock you.
In 2019, Uber made an interesting statement. The statement was in an S1, a mandatory document for companies going public. It offers the first detailed look at their finances, and it's Uber's opportunity to convince the public why they should invest with it. If you read through it, you'll see big plans for driverless cars. You'll see profit and loss statements. Dive into the risk section, and it's more than a warning about potential pitfalls. If you look closely, you'll find Uber's plan to make profit, hidden in plain sight. As we aim to reduce driver incentives to improve our financial performance, we expect driver dissatisfaction will generally increase. Translation: we plan to turn a profit by paying drivers less.
Yeah, I just want to look at that sentence. We aim to reduce driver incentives in order to improve our financial importance. I mean, performance. Sorry. Oh God, I'm trying to read two things at once. We expect driver dissatisfaction will generally increase. So they're just going to stick it to the workers in order to increase profit. Where have we heard this fucking sort of plan before? Good God, it's disgusting.
Generally increase.
These people have
Translation: we plan to turn a profit by paying drivers less. In 2023, it finally happened. After losing $33 billion, Uber turned an operating profit for the first time in company history. The stock price doubled. This milestone made headlines, and management took a victory lap.
It's the amalgamation of a ton of work, and we plan to be profitable for every quarter going forward.
Management said the profit came from diversifying into food delivery and freight. They dropped some buzzwords about innovation and efficiency, but there's a growing chorus of major business school professors who have a much more simpler explanation, one that calls back to Uber's original stock filing. Those profits came directly from a driver's cut of each ride. So who's right? Well, let's take a look at the evidence.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Hold on. Let me just queue us up. Can't watch this whole fucking video, I don't think. Actually, it's not that long.
The academic research, the financial statements, and we can understand why Uber could now view controlling this debate just as important as their app functioning. Because if the truth gets out, Uber's profits could be in serious trouble.
In the early days, Uber used investment capital to subsidize driver pay and passenger fares.
This is Mariah Montgomery. She's the National Campaign Director at Power Switch Action.
And we're working alongside rideshare drivers in different cities.
So, if you don't understand what that means, basically, before Uber went public, even if rides weren't profitable, they were padding their worker pay to keep drivers around. And we shouldn't call them workers, right? Because in most cases, they were not classified as workers. They were all, and aside from in a couple of places, they're all classified as contractors, not workers. They're not W-2s. And the fact is that they were using investor money, angel investor money, which is what got Uber started in the first place before they went public. It's why they were able to dominate the marketplace and become as ubiquitous as they currently are, just because of how much money came into them from like tech billionaires. I'm trying to think, I think it was Thiel was one of them. But so they were using that capital to pay workers, or sorry, I keep saying to pay drivers more than they could actually afford to, right? Like the market didn't actually pay for it. They were losing money, essentially. They were pulling an Amazon, right? For years, Amazon operated on no profits, right? But they went public and they essentially just kept operating at a loss until they had everybody, and then they started doing things to try and increase profitability, right? Increasing your Prime membership costs, charging for oh fuck, my brain just broke. I haven't been using Amazon a lot lately. But you get what I'm saying, right? Where it's just like we will lose money so that we can become a monopoly, and then once we are, we're gonna jack up prices, we're gonna cut worker pay, we're gonna do whatever we can to actually be a real company, right? But the fact is, a lot of these business models are not they don't actually turn a profit unless you treat people like slaves, or well, just above it, right? Where they're your sort of servant army almost, right? Of people that are just like sort of stuck in the system because, for multiple reasons, right? All sorts of people have to do these gig worker types of things for whatever reason. There's a lot of them. For fuck's sake. All right. Sorry.
You are fighting for better standards and more protection on the job.
When the company started, Uber lost money on every ride. Your ride was cheaper and the driver made more because investors subsidized everything. Some analysts believe that investors paid for 40% of every ride because they were trying to capture what they call a liquidity network effect. Basically, they were trying to build a big network full of riders and drivers, and it worked. But now that the company is public, their demand isn't for scale, it's for profit.
Uber has 75% of the ride-hail market nationally now, and they have taken advantage of that as demands from investors have changed.
I think that the era of pricing, of fighting purely based on price is over, right? That was 3-4 years ago when it was just about volume, but investors now want profitable volume. And if the only thing you have to offer is a lower price, you're not offering much ultimately.
In December 2023, Columbia Business School professor Len Sherman started crunching the numbers. Working with reliable third-party data, he found that Uber's profitability was easily explainable if you were willing to admit something unsaid in polite circles. Basically, Uber was charging consumers more and paying drivers less. The charging more was obvious. Like nearly every other company, Uber...
Yeah, they're burning the candle at both ends is the wrong analogy, but you get what I'm saying. They're coming at it from both sides, trying to create profitability out of literally everyone, consumers, and they should be workers, honestly. This whole contractor system of theirs is another one of these glaring problems that we have in regards to a lot of these gig companies, honestly. Because it allows them to treat people who are doing what should be considered employees' work to have zero rights with regards to unionizing, getting healthcare and other benefits, and it's just it's a bad system that they've created for us here.
prices throughout the pandemic, way more than inflation. Fares are up 65% since Uber went public. But proving that Uber was paying drivers less was tricky because management hardly gave clear answers. According to Sherman's analysis, at the start of 2022, the average fare was about $21, with the driver earning a little over $13. That means that Uber took home the remaining amount, or 35%. By 2023, the average fare was up to over $21, but drivers, they were making less. Uber's take increased to over 40%. How did they pull it off? Well, technology. Historically,
same thing has been happening with tech platforms as well, with streamers. You look at it on Twitch, Amazon. Twitch has been a unprofitable thorn in Amazon's side for many years now. And the fact is they've been doing the same thing. They've been taking way more money, encouraging people to run more and more ads. And I believe they're considering taking away Twitch Prime memberships, which were a huge draw for Twitch users. And it's happening across the board in all sorts of places. The fact is, a lot of these people can't turn a profit without exploiting somebody. That's the problem with tech companies. A lot of the suffering is sort of, it's what's the word? It's like decentralized. Okay, let's look at this. We are now going to start transitioning into our ecological and environmental coverage for the day here. Good God, how do I have this much stuff to go through today? All right, to start it off, let's look at this from 5 hours ago, where apparently the Panama Canal is facing a water crisis amid drought and growing demand.
For almost a year, the number of ships passing through the Panama Canal has been reduced to cope with a severe drought brought by the El Niño weather phenomenon. Without enough water to raise and lower vessels through the locks, officials were left with no alternative but to cut operations, creating headaches for shipping worldwide.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Hydrologist Abelardo Val says new water sources are essential to maintaining the canal's profitability.
The canal was designed more than 100 years ago for a certain demand of water, a certain number of transits, and a certain population living in Panama City. And now the demand has greatly increased. Therefore, the Panama Canal needs to increase its water supply in order to meet that water demand.
The canal operations depend on fresh water from artificial lakes that also supply drinking water for half of Panama's population, in a country where almost 50% of potable...
That is a... that's kind of a fucked conundrum, or I don't know, paradoxical fucking situation there, well, I don't know if paradoxical is even the right word to use in this, but the fact is that Panama's government is essentially gambling with half of its country's water. I don't know if gambling is even the right word, but they are using it for in this way, right, for capitalist objectives. Meanwhile, the more they do that, the more people go without water. It's completely fucked. It's completely fucked.
Water is lost to poor management.
As Panama's population grows and the seaborne trade expands, the government worry that the demand for water will greatly surpass the available supply by 2050.
The Canal Authority says they're considering various options, including costly desalination plants and creating new reservoirs, which would require relocating thousands of people.
The canal is important because it generates income and growth. We need to guarantee its best management whilst preserving people's rights to water and land.
Last year, deadly protests broke out when the government allowed a Canadian company to expand its mining contract, impacting water resources. The country's Supreme Court eventually ruled the government's contract with the company was unconstitutional. Scientists say things could improve in coming months, and the canal could return to normal operations in 2025.
Onion rings or cinnamon toast? Whoa, okay, that's a weird, like, how is that the decision? That's, or cinnamon toast? It would make more sense if it was like onion rings or french fries. Or like, I don't know, cinnamon toast or waffles. But onion rings or cinnamon toast is I don't even know how to answer that. That's got to be a very personal response. I genuinely, it's like, what are you feeling right now? Do you need salt and savory, or do you need sweet and fluffy? Both? My God. Okay. Moving on to things equally as important as cinnamon toast and onion rings. Perhaps even more so. But I'm not going to be the judge of that. I'll let you judge. This is from 4 days ago. The invisible crisis threatening America. Largest underground aquifer in the United States. That's a big is dropped 150 feet. And this aquifer is the largest in America. So you gotta figure, I mean, it's gotta be fucking massive. So 150 feet less water across an entire aquifer. We're talking about billions of gallons of water just fucking gone.
Ogallala Aquifer is the lifeblood of one of the world's...
Holy Jesus, it's huge. Wow. I find it interesting that you comment this right now, because I was thinking it to myself, because like you're saying, Nebraska has had a drought for years. However, you'll notice that the way that they're framing a lot of this story, this is the Wall Street Journal after all, is about crops. It's about animals. It's about agriculture, right? It's not about making sure normal, average, everyday people have water. That's not really their question, but it is an important question in terms of, I mean, agriculture is literally one of America's largest businesses, right? The statistics I really wanted us to hear among the number of statistics they throw around, but 80 to 85% of the water pulled out of the aquifer is used for agriculture. 15% is going to people. So this massive drawdown can be greatly attributed to the farming practices of the Midwest. Hold on, I'm just going to move us forward a little bit. Settle down, lady. Now, what's frustrating about this graph is that it doesn't give me any idea of how deep these layers are. However, with that said, it is still deeply disturbing. If you look at what we're looking at here in some detail, you see the top curve is in years, so that's how long it takes to replenish that. Years. It's not specific about exactly how many years. The second curve there is centuries. I hate that. I hate that one. Hundreds of years. That sounds terrible. It's sort of multi-generational problem. But then the last curve makes me real sad inside. I get like a real shit feeling inside when I look at millennia, and I think, that is what do you think? Now, granted, these layers could be hundreds of feet, and they did not give us any, and that's why I hate when they don't give us a table. I need some kind of a key here to genuinely deconstruct this graph. But I'm just saying, the fact that we are in fact potentially affecting things that might take thousands of years to fix. It's not great. It's not great. It's not great. Not trying to alarm anybody, but it is does sound bad. I'm going to attempt to not, I don't know, lose my freaking mind.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay.
Risk.
No, stop that. Now, there's a bunch more to this documentary here. I think this is really the part that we should look at, which is this really annoying sort of like senseless appeal to authority. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing it until somebody tells me not to. It's like, pal, maybe you just assess what's happening for a second on your own without having somebody tell you what to fucking do. Please. For the love of God. It showed that there were two cup shapes. Wow.
Industrial use.
It did. Multiple cup shapes, in fact. The sets. That is not what you want. You don't want salt water in your drinking water. That's factual.
It's like,
exactly. Wait, hold on. That's the thing about it, is that water is a fucking public resource for everybody. And fact is companies are just being given so much latitude to do whatever the fuck they want with it, to make as much money as they possibly can with it, and to not have to be responsible with the resource that belongs to everybody. And it's not the sort of system that we can keep going about doing in this way. Oh, so frustrating. Okay, I gotta line this next one up. Partly because we've watched part of this before.
Is 1 degree of warming really that big of a deal?
Maya,
How about 2?
Pause. Thank you. Although, actually, maybe we'll just refresh ourselves real quick at the beginning of this, and then I'll move us to a different spot that we didn't watch. Okay. This is from PBS Terra from a year ago. What will Earth look like when these 6 tipping points hit?
Is 1 degree of warming really that big of a deal? How about 2? Could 1.5 or 2 degrees of warming from pre-industrial levels mean doomsday or game over? Seems kind of extreme, but we know that the Earth will look different as the climate warms because we can already see some of it happening around us. And there are some pretty amazing models that predict what the world would look like with changes set in motion by just a bit more warming. So who's going to be affected? Where will we feel the effects first? And how can such a small change matter in such a big way? The answer lies in understanding.
Lies in understanding what comes next. All right, hold on. Let me get us. All right, yeah. Start right here.
we're seeing accelerating melt of the Greenland ice sheet because of that extra Arctic heating.
It's not just darker water absorbing warmth from the sun. As Greenland's ice melts, it exposes land which heats up faster than the more reflective ice and water around it, speeding up the melt by 60% according to one recent study. Some of this is already happening.
We're confident that the Greenland ice sheet can have a tipping point of where the melt and shrinkage of the ice sheet becomes irreversible. That could be close.
Like, very close. Tim recently published a study saying that the irreversible threshold could be just 1.5 degrees.
Certainly the ice melt and shrinkage is accelerating and has been for several decades now. And then the meltwater that's pouring off Greenland, either side, into the North Atlantic Ocean, that poses a risk for what's called the Great Overturning Circulation of the Atlantic Ocean.
This is commonly referred to as the AMOC. It's essentially a giant flow of water that acts like a global conveyor belt, bringing heat from the southern hemisphere all the way up north to Greenland.
Under normal service, the water gets cold enough and salty enough and dense enough to fall from the very top of the ocean all the way to the bottom in a process we call deep convection in the seas either side of Greenland. But if you add fresh water pouring off the Greenland ice sheet, and you make the surface waters fresher, less dense, less prone to sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and this is certainly a factor contributing to some observed weakening of this great overturning of the Atlantic Ocean.
Hold on, I'm just going to get us a little bit further here. Let's look at monsoons, which we've been seeing a great deal of problems with recently.
Well, that means disrupting monsoon systems around the tropics, kind of near the Atlantic in West Africa on one side and South America, the Amazon region on the other, but also around the planet in India.
Farmers around the world count on these reliable rain cycles each year. Changing their timing, location, or strength would disrupt the livelihoods of over 1 billion people and complicate global food supplies as agriculture has to relocate and productivity is decreased.
Yeah. A massive amount of the world's rice. It's like 80% is like in South China, which has been getting absolutely wrecked by rain the recent past. All right, here's tipping point 4, the Amazon rainforest.
In fact, the Amazon experienced 3 1-in-100-year droughts between 2010 and 2020. These severe droughts contributed to massive diebacks, and for the first time in the forest's observed history, a large portion of it flipped from being a carbon sink to a net carbon source of greenhouse gas.
So if this monsoon disruption amounts to further intensification of the dry season, that's the thing that could risk a more widespread dieback of the Amazon forest that then becomes self-propelling because the Amazon recycles its own rainfall back to the atmosphere. When you take the trees away and you reduce the recycling, that tends to take more trees away, and so on and so forth. Well, we don't want that to happen for various reasons, because we don't want to lose perhaps the greatest harbour of diverse life on the Earth's land surface.
Okay, that's not
And here's this number 6. Yeah, this is this one is super problematic. Let's talk about permafrost real quick.
Is thawing at an accelerating rate, not least because the whole Arctic is warming at an accelerating rate. And the permafrost is important because it's a really big frozen store of carbon.
Really quickly, permafrost is land that's frozen year-round and has been for a long time. When it's frozen, there's no tiny bugs to eat the organic matter it contains, so the massive stores of carbon are safe.
As you start to thaw it, well, you start to release that carbon because bugs are basically going to work. They might be the kind of bugs that turn some of that carbon into methane, which is a far more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Meanwhile, other bugs are turning it straight to carbon dioxide. Both of those things are being added to the atmosphere.
There's also massive stores of methane that don't even need to be affected by wildlife in the north. And yeah, we've seen on this stream some of them exploding, or at least the remnants of them exploding. But that was number 6, so that's all 6 of them. First one is Greenland ice sheet. Number 2 was the North Atlantic current. Number 3 was monsoons. Number 4 was the Amazon rainforest. Number 5 was what was number 5? Why did I forget number 5? Number 6 was permafrost. How did I forget number 5 already? Oh, the Antarctic ice sheet. Right. That's right. Because Greenland and Antarctica are different. God dang it. But yeah, those are the 6 things that are most potentially catastrophic as it relates to the warming of the planet. Now let's look at some stuff that's been happening recently. This is from 5 days ago here in America, where in this footage that you're about to watch, every single tree in this yard in Michigan came down while being struck by a tornado. This shit is crazy. And before we go too far with this, this is part of that storm that went through the Midwest, starting in essentially kind of starting in Texas, but tornadoes and flooding hit like 7 or 8 states at least. And Michigan wasn't even expected to get hit. I think it was the first ever tornado of this size, or maybe even at all, to ever be recorded in Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a very strange occurrence to have happen, and you'll see that these trees are not ready. Starts off looking real nice. It's a nice yard. Got a bunch of big ass trees. Well, now you got one less one. Oh, God. They all just start going. This is just insane. Fuck. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Like, I think that must be like a Ring doorbell camera, because I could not imagine standing there and recording that. And speaking of all of that, we have a quick update on that situation. We haven't checked back in Texas for, I want to say, at least a few days now. Maybe like Friday or Saturday. But according to ABC 13 Houston from 14 hours ago, well, the exact same area that just got struck is about to get struck again.
We've got a stormy Monday afternoon. I'm ABC 13 meteorologist Alita Loresco with your need-to-know weather. We've upgraded that weather watch to an ABC 13 weather alert day for the potential for some severe weather. And now we're starting to see signs that those severe thunderstorms that pop up later on today could have damaging winds, including some hail. The winds first, a 15 to 30% chance of seeing those damaging winds form, along with a hatched area, meaning that the wind speeds could be in excess excess of 75 miles per hour, and also going to be dealing with some severe hail. These hailstorms, anywhere between a 15 to 30% chance, could contain hail greater than golf ball size wherever you see that yellow hatch zone from Corpus Christi all the way into New Orleans as we get into the afternoon hours. The tornado risk remains low at around 2%, but it's not at zero.
So thankfully, it looks like they're not going to be getting hit by tornadoes, but 75-mile-per-hour winds are not to be laughed at, especially when accompanied by a hailstorm. I would point that out. I think perhaps in vain. Obviously, I think it's pretty obvious, but they're also going to be getting hit with a great deal of rain as well, and much of the area is still flooded from my research. It's not entirely receded, or even it's barely receded in some areas apparently, so not good. For fuck's sake. Okay, all right, let's move on to this, which we've been talking about now last couple of days, where fires in Canada have already started, even though it's barely spring right now. But yeah, this is actually a new fire. We were talking about one in the northeastern part of BC. However, another one has sprung up in Manitoba, which according to CBC News is still very dangerous.
Manitoba largely escapes the terrible wildfires seen elsewhere in the country last year, but this year is a different matter. Officials gave a briefing on a fast-moving fire near Cranberry Portage.
By the way, if you're unaware of where these places we're talking about are, BC is up in the northwest of Canada, and Manitoba is on the border of, I believe, like North Dakota, something like that. Maybe even more east than that. I think it borders Alberta, something like that. But yeah, just for a general idea, if you were unsure.
Residents to flee, and the CBC's Cameron McIntosh is following developments from Winnipeg. So, Cam, what are officials saying about the fire, about the season so far?
Well, May 13th, and here we are in Manitoba fighting forest fires. That's early, and yes, as you mentioned, last year, Manitoba was largely spared from all the wildfires that we saw, particularly in Western Canada. But Manitoba right now fighting a fairly large fire, about 31,000 hectares, so a little more than 300 square kilometers. This fire is at Cranberry Portage, which is about
300 square kilometers. That is massive. Wait, hold on. I have to look something up now. What? I did not hear this on my first listen through. Wait, is that right? No. Get the fuck out. Hold on. Gotta hear that number again.
About 31,000 hectares, so a little more than 300 square kilometers. This fire is at Cranberry Portage, which is about 45 kilometers southeast of Flin Flon. Now, what fire officials are saying is that this is one of the driest areas of the province. On Thursday, there were lightning strikes in the area. It started some fires, which became this large fire. Over the course of the weekend, the fire just basically whipped itself up and started to grow. Here now is the director of the Manitoba Wildfire Service.
So this fire 10 was started on Thursday night. By the next day, it was already 35 hectares. And the next day, the following day, it exploded to 3,000 hectares. And then, of course, on Saturday, it was the day that...
Oh, it's bordered by Ontario and Saskatchewan, so it is more east than I thought. Okay, well, thank you. But it is on the border, correct? I think. Now I gotta look at a map. It's killing me. Should just bring it up on my computer. Why am I doing this? Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but it is directly above North Dakota, so I guess I was right. Kind of. Yeah, so 30,000 hectares. That is a crazy number in such a short period of time. We're just hearing about this, and somehow in that amount of time, 300 kilometers worth of forest just on fire.
It took off with the wind and grew to we said 35,000 hectares. I've been working in wildfire for 40 years. I've never seen a fire move like this fire moved.
So that's Earl Simmons.
Whoa, you guys, chat, you have over 40 likes right now. This is incredible. Really great job. Oh, that's a 1. Gotta roll it again. Who's that? Oh, okay. You know, just because of how impressive that is, I'm just gonna say you deserve all of this. Okay. For fuck's sake, I cannot believe that Canada is already like on fire to this degree right now. Hold on, we're just gonna move this forward slightly. Just want to talk. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. That is the CBC's Cameron McIntosh live in Winnipeg.
Let's bring in Lori Forbes now. She's the Municipal Emergency Coordinator for...
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like 300,000... Wait, no. Is that 3 million acres? Wait, hold on. 100 times 30. You said 30,000. That's actually, yeah, that's 3 million acres. Holy shit.
The rural municipality of Kelsey, which the community of Cranberry Portage is a part of, and we've reached her in the paw. Lori, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So what is the latest that you've been hearing about the fire around the community, or is it getting quite close to the community itself?
Okay, so Saturday was clearly the day of concern. Things changed very quickly on Saturday, late afternoon, early evening, and that was the cause for the emergency and immediate mandatory evacuation of the community. Things have been looked after very professionally and well by the Manitoba Wildfire Services, the Office of the Fire Commission, as well as the RCMP and Conservation. They've been deploying sprinklers in the community, ensuring that all structures of value and homes and all of those structures remain standing, and all of those sprinklers remain working well, and that has been successful. The fire itself is still a very dangerous fire, so our evacuation notice remains.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, she sounds confident about them being able to stop this fire before it reaches the town. But then she says stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, so it's definitely, it's not contained at all. Or at least it's definitely dangerous enough that it's still a concern for the community. Okay, this is from 6 hours ago. Now this is, I believe, is discussing the other fire we were talking about that's in BC. This is from Global News. Canada wildfires. Be ready for anything after telecom lines damaged by flames. Official warns.
During wildfire season, as threats loom, communication is key. And this weekend, those trying to use the internet or a cell phone in some Western Canadian and Northern communities and...
Is there such a thing as a not dangerous fire? I think technically, yes. I mean, depending on how you want to define dangerous. I think the way that we're defining dangerous in this situation is threat to people's like safety in terms of like having it reach a town, and maybe reaching people's homes. You know what I'm saying? Reaching infrastructure. I think that's generally the concern, right? And when they say safety, they're talking about containment, right? Or at least their belief of containment, because they'll go around and attempt to create a line, like a border around the fire perimeter, right? Doing different things, like spraying fire retardant chemicals, and like sometimes they do like controlled burns, right? Depends on the situation.
With a deadline, a result of the fires damaging a major provider's fiber optic lines.
Well, this was really a bit of a perfect storm. We had our east-west route fail late afternoon on Friday, and it was within about 5 hours that we had our north-south route fail.
Communication through telecoms can be a lifeline for many during wildfires, but as climate-related disasters like wildfires mount, there's concern whether that access will be there in a pinch.
What we're seeing is that, with wildfires burning sooner and hotter and more unpredictably, with floods sometimes impacting our communications infrastructure as well, it's so important to be prepared for anything.
Those in the Yukon, northern BC, and parts of the Northwest Territories had certain services disrupted. Connection has been restored, but some say it points to why Canadians should not only look online, but through other channels like radio for information.
You can't find the information you're looking for on one channel, try to find another.
Northwestel, parent company Bell, and
well, I hope all of our Canadian viewers and non-viewers, all Canadians, stay safe from these fires. Oh God, just fucked. Okay, let's watch something to make us less sad, just momentarily. Let's try, just for a moment. Let's talk about birds.
As far as I know, these are the biggest birdhouses in the world. I've never seen one bigger than mine. This one here, it has 103 rooms in it, 32 dormers. There is no world record yet, but I plan on making one. With the amount of birds I have here every day, it's just crazy. When you stand across the street, that's all you hear is this bird buzz. It gets very loud some days. The neighbors mentioned it to me anyway. I am John Lucer. I live in Belgrave, Ontario. It's about 2 hours west of Toronto. I've built over 5,000 birdhouses in the last 20 years, more than I ever expected to ever build. I just love building things. It doesn't matter if it's a birdhouse or whatever it is. This one, the wood is about 130 years old, has a rooftop pool on it. A lot of people...
I just thought this was so cool. Like, and I know it's this guy's business or whatever, but goddamn, to be a bird in that birdhouse. Okay, we're certainly not going to watch this whole thing. Mostly because it's just not pressing, super pressing information, but it's just fun. And I just thought we would try and lift our spirits just for literally 1 minute. Before we talk about Brazil, which is still flooded. And as it is with Texas, it is also with Brazil. They are also in danger of even more flooding. Let's look at this from 14 hours ago, where the flood surge in Brazil has swamped jets, cars, airport terminals, and the death toll continues to rise. Climate change could cause the great tit to go extinct. Yeah, it's very sad. It could cause all the tits to go extinct. The tufted titmouse. There's a number of them. I'm trying to think of all the bird. All right, we're not gonna do this. I'm gonna focus. Oh, wait, shit, there's reading. I'm supposed to be reading. Oh, okay. I guess I can do that. Dramatic new footage shows a major airport drowned in 7 feet of water after apocalyptic floods continue to hit Brazil. At least 145 have died and more than 500,000 have been left homeless as endless torrential batter rains. Salgado Filho International Airport has been caught up in the Brazilian state of Rio Grande do Sul's. Oh god, it's just moving so fast. There's so much to read. God damn you! Why must you do this to me? I gotta go back. It's partially because they keep putting things in quotes and it's bothering me. Because I want to say quote unquote, because it's supposedly, I don't even know who to quote, but supposedly is the worst disaster they've ever seen. A shocking video showed jumbo jets floating in water next to a desolate airport that now can only be reached by boat. The entire first floor has been flooded with dirty water filled with debris and dead animals. Jesus fucking Christ. This shit looks like a literal movie in the worst way possible. Cars have been left abandoned and now submerged in floodwater. Yeah, no shit, submerged. They are beneath the floodwater. Holy shit. God damn. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Acompanhando esse trabalho espetacular de vocês. Muito obrigada.
Comes as Brazilian authorities reported on May 12th that the death toll in the state had risen to 145, up from 136 the day before. Another 125 people remain unaccounted for, and more rain is expected to pour down. More than 2 million people have been affected by the deluge, which experts link to climate change. And I'm not going to read that last thing because I don't agree. The crisis has left more than 619,000 displaced out of a population of 10.9 million. Parts of the state capital of Porto Alegre, home to 1.4 million people, remain underwater. Yeah, and things are just getting worse down there right now instead of better. Sadly. Okay, let's watch another thing to try and lift our spirits. This one we're actually going to watch. We're going to watch it even more than the last one, because this one is, I think maybe more relevant to the sort of stuff we do here. This is how wildlife crossings protect both animals and people.
All across America, critters are crossing the road, and more of them, Connor Knighton tells us, are doing it in style.
Interstate 90 is the longest interstate highway in the United States. Spanning more than 3,000 miles, it connects Seattle in the west to Boston in the east. But it also serves as a massive concrete divide. For the animals who live to the north and south of the interstate, this road has absolutely wrecked their commute.
Is there a rush hour for the animals?
Yes, they tend to be nocturnal or crepuscular, sort of at dawn or dusk.
Patty Garvadarda is a wildlife biologist with the U.S. Forest Service. Brian White works for the Washington State Department of Transportation. Together, their two organizations have teamed up to develop a network of critter crossings in Washington, overpasses and underpasses designed to provide safe passage for wildlife.
The fact that you have one here and one here, is that because you've identified both of those areas as areas that animals are likely to cross?
Yes, correct.
The crossing project spans 15 miles of I-90 near the Snoqualmie Pass in Washington, flanked by large chunks of what's primarily national forest land, habitat for all sorts of creatures, great and small.
If they're protected on both sides, why does it matter if they're connected?
Because you lose genetic variability, and gradually you start getting localized extinction, and populations get further and further apart and smaller.
Around the country, most animals see a busy highway and turn around. A brave few might try to cross, but they're at risk of getting run over. A wildlife crossing is supposed to make that process far less treacherous. But there's no guarantee that if you build it, they will come.
There's a wildlife corridor sign back there. Is that that helps, right? That's how the animals figure it out. They just look at that and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I just think that this kind of engineering is very necessary and important for us to be thinking about when we build our cities, when we build our infrastructure, so that we're not causing unintended environmental damage, that we're not living in harmony to our best capabilities. You love stuff like this? Well, I love stuff like this too, you know. It's the kind of stuff we should be doing more of. Okay, what next? Alright. Well, there's been like literally flood after flood all over the world. We keep talking about them. This one happened, I think, about 2 days ago. This is just another story about it, just so that everybody has hopefully heard about it through this stream by now. This is Afghanistan after being struck by a massive flood. Was it 3 days ago now? The severe weather wiped out homes, livestock, and has killed hundreds of people. Like, it's literally killed, I think, over 300 people now. It's wild. Okay, just because we've looked at that already, not going to go through all of it, but let's look at the aftermath of the floods that have been happening in Indonesia's West Sumatra over the last 2 days as well.
Search and rescue operations continue in Indonesia's West Sumatra province on Monday after deadly flash floods and mudslides. Dozens were killed over the weekend, authorities said, while rescuers carried on searching for missing people. 400 personnel, including rescuers, police, and military, have been deployed, helped by at least 8 excavators and drones. Torrential rain on Saturday evening triggered floods, landslides, and cold lava flow in 3 districts in the province. The cold lava flow is a mud-like mixture of volcanic ash, rock debris, and water. It came from...
It's basically cement, is what she's trying to say. Like, having all of that, you know, like volcanic ash mixed in with debris and water, basically just turns into not even slow-moving cement, fast-moving cement.
Mount Merapi, one of Sumatra's most active volcanoes. In December, more than 20 people were killed after Merapi erupted.
And the fact is, it doesn't even have to be fast moving for it to be destructive because of that fact, right? Like, if it gets left around, it basically is going to be just a massive task to try and whatever, like unearth your door to get into your house or whatever gets covered by it. Just it's a fucking disaster. Bad Lefty's got a pool. Oh, pool party at Bad Lefty's house. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. I just thought that this footage was incredible. So let's look at this volcanic eruption, which you'll see. This is insane. Shit was crazy. I did not expect it to do what it did. It's almost like it exploded. But I think it was just somehow like the lightning bouncing back and forth between all of the particles inside of the cloud, making it light up like that. That's my guess. I just thought it was insane. Want to watch it again? You can watch it again. Just the timing, just like being there recording that when that happens. I don't know what the likelihood of something like that happening, but man, I've never seen anything like that. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a really uplifting video from 2 months ago. From PBS Terra.
Polar sea ice is one of the most important insurance policies against runaway climate change. It helps regulate the Earth's temperature, influences global ocean circulation, and it's critically important in protecting the ice sheets from melting and causing massive sea level rise. But as the world warmed, something really confusing happened in the Southern Ocean. While nearly all other ice on Earth was decreasing, Antarctic sea ice levels were mysteriously increasing.
It was a paradox, right? We had a warming world, but Southern Ocean sea ice was expanding, and that was in contradiction to what our models suggested.
Unlike the steady downward trend of Arctic sea ice, Antarctic sea ice records since the late 1970s showed a nearly flat line. That's good news, right? But then they dropped, and they stayed low, reaching an all-time record low in 2023 by a wide margin. And 2024 isn't looking so good either.
I hate that graph. I really do. Really not a fan of this. It's not good.
Nearly flat line. That's good news, right? But then they dropped, and they stayed low, reaching an all-time record low in 2023 by a wide margin. And 2024 isn't looking so good either. Scientists have been scrambling.
You think it's a spiteful? It's a spite? Ice spite? Is that possible? Can
to
ice
figure
feel
out
emotions?
what is going on.
This year, Southern Ocean sea ice got to just over 7 standard deviations below the mean. You would expect to see something like that once every 700 billion years, which is just bonkers.
The change has even been noticeable to scientists working in Antarctica. There's been
But I love graphs, I know, but it makes me sad when I see a graph that's, you know, where the data set is genuinely depressing. Just the fact that, you know, because for a second, you know, as it was going up, you know, you're thinking to yourself, hey, maybe the southern hemisphere is gonna pick up the slack for us, and then no, actually not. Just kidding. I was just kidding. That's what makes me sad. And then the following graph, of course, is also depressing due to the fact that it kind of illuminates for us that we are in a horrifying sort of outlier of like normal right now, and we need to get back to normal.
Real lack of sea ice around Antarctica. It's really alarming.
What they were seeing broke all of their climate models, and their findings had them questioning if Antarctica is experiencing a state change.
You don't need statistics to tell you something different was happening this year, and it was a big difference.
Antarctic sea ice is critically important for the globe as a whole, and some of our most iconic species depend on it, including emperor penguins.
Now, this is from 2 months ago, right? We actually watched this, I think, maybe a couple days after it came out. I just felt that it was of some level of importance for us to look back at this 2 months later after having watched, let's see, Southeastern Brazil go completely underwater, still underwater. Texas, Houston area, go underwater, still underwater. Watch Eastern Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique all go underwater, and are maybe not still underwater, but are still dealing with the aftermaths of those floods. We've seen flooding happening in, where is it? Was it Yemen? No, the UAE. Maybe Yemen. Maybe Yemen and the UAE. The point is there's been an incredible number of floods. Russia, oh my god, Russia has been flooded for, like almost like weeks now, like maybe 3 weeks. Russia has been flooded, and I was saying at the beginning of it, oh, it'll probably subside, hopefully soon. No, that just got worse. I'm not trying to be alarmist, but considering what they were discussing 2 months ago, I am genuinely concerned about what it is that we're seeing as this trend around the world right now. Just connecting dots.
Ancestors of this flightless bird roamed the earth millions of years ago during the age of the dinosaurs. And they lived through some pretty incredible changes in climate. But the threats they face today are unprecedented, and their future is precarious. There are actually pretty good projections about how their population will fare under different warming scenarios. So keep watching to find out what we can expect by the end of the century and how emperor penguins may be a harbinger for what's to come. Antarctica has ice both on land in the form of ice sheets and in the waters around it in the form of seasonal sea ice. Like in the Arctic, the surface of the ocean around Antarctica freezes over in the winter and melts in the summer.
At its summer minimum, it covers an area about half the size of Australia. And then in autumn and winter, this freezes and it covers an area 2.5 times the size of Australia. So we've got this huge area of sea ice. This seasonal waxing and waning as there's more and less sunlight and warmth over the Southern Ocean is really reliable.
But the stability of the system was thrown into question in 2016, while scientists were busy trying to figure out why sea ice appeared to be increasing. Something shifted dramatically.
Then in 2016, in our study, we find that there's this abrupt decline in sea ice. In the space of 2 years, the Antarctic lost as much sea ice as the Arctic lost in 3 decades, right? It's a really abrupt drop.
That was a huge shock to the community. We didn't see it coming.
The following years showed signs of increasing, but were still consistently below average. But then 2023 happened.
This summer was a record low. The previous summer was a record low. So we had 2 record low summers back to back. And then this winter has been completely unlike anything else we have seen in the records. It's also unlike anything in the reconstructions. We were missing an area of ice about 2.5 million square kilometers in size. So that's an area the size of Alaska and Texas put together. It's a vast, vast area of the ocean that would normally be covered by ice that wasn't this year.
And even though Antarctica...
Okay, well, of course that whole documentary is available on PBS Terra, but that's we're gonna leave that for now. Not very optimistic. I'm sorry, chat. But just trying to be realistic about what it is we're facing right now, what we've been dealing with. Trying to understand it as much as you are, honestly, and it just something that really has me concerned lately is all of this stuff that I keep seeing, right? And the fact is maybe I'm more like maybe I'm getting more recommendations for this kind of stuff than average people. Maybe I'm looking for it more than average people, but yeah, I guess it's just something that I think is of great importance right now. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. Hold on. Hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing. Really helps out. If you'd like to help out even more, well, you got one good option. And that is become a Galactic patron. For just a few dollars a month, you can help me out in what I do here at the Galactic News Network, as well as get access to sweet, sweet space benefits. Alright, chat. Well, enjoy this short intermission. Grab yourself a drink and or a snack, and I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Let's get this show back on the road. I think where we should start is in Spain. This is a report from Reuters 19 hours ago, where Spain's socialists hail a new era post-Catalan elections.
Spain's socialists won the biggest share of the vote in Sunday's Catalan elections, marking a significant setback for the long-standing separatist leadership and their aspirations for independence. The socialists, led locally by Salvador Illa, secured 42 seats out of the 135 after more than 99% of the votes were tallied. Speaking as the voting count concluded, Illa hailed a new era for the region.
Catalonia today has decided to start up, to function with respect, courtesy, and counting on everyone, and also with ambition to once again lead Spain economically.
Meanwhile, the hardline separatist Junts came in second place with 35 seats, and the incumbent, more moderate separatist party Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya, or the ERC, had 20 seats. Junts' Carles Puigdemont said there was a lack of collective strategy amongst the pro-independence parties.
This fact forces a long-delayed reflection within the independence movement on the effects of disunity and also the...
It's probably best that the nationalists didn't win. I don't know. I could be wrong on that one. I think it's probably for the best that the socialists have dominated that election in Catalan. This is another reason why Barcelona is better than Madrid. Interesting. Okay. Okay. It's probably a controversial opinion somewhere, but I have no horse in that race. All right, let's move to talking a little bit about the EU. This is from France 24 from 6 hours ago. The rise of the far right. Is EU stability at risk?
The rise of the far right across Europe and the possible threats that could entail, including, and it's, I think, if I'm correct, Emmanuel Macron, who's warned that Europe has never been more at risk because of the instability that is being sown by certain political elements within the bloc, some of them at the behest, whether knowingly or not, of Vladimir Putin to create a kind of instability within this continent. Let's, without any further delay, bring in our guest, Dr. Marta Lorimer, who's a fellow in European politics at the European Institute at the London School of Economics. Dr. Lorimer, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. We appreciate your time. The rise of the far right across Europe, is this an exaggeration or a genuine threat? What's your take?
So it's not an exaggeration to say that far-right parties are on the rise in Europe. Whether they present or not a threat and what kind of threat really depends on where we're looking at and how big the party is, how much power they have, and how its adversaries are dealing with it.
Is one of the issues that the far right is becoming normalized? And with that, is there a parallel to be made with the 1930s in Europe?
So yes, so it's absolutely true that the far right has become increasingly normalized. So if you look at just about 30 years ago, far right parties were fairly rare across Europe, and they weren't particularly successful. Most importantly, they were really ostracized by other political parties who refused to work with them. Now, this is increasingly changing because far right parties are becoming bigger. They are becoming more successful, and other political parties are more willing to not just collaborate with them, but actually push forwards their ideas. Whether it is wise at the moment to...
Which is horrifying. Like, that should not be the reaction, right? Is to push forward right-wing agendas just because you see some sort of, I don't know, like electoral risk or something like that. That is not the way to deal with this. Hold on. I'm just going to try and get us to another spot. We're not going to watch this whole thing. I want to say it's probably a good spot.
A place of greater mellowness, people who are very, very affable, great to get on with. But they've, turned towards the far right. Geert Wilders now occupying a role that many people thought would have been impossible 10 years ago.
Yes, exactly. So the Netherlands is another case where we've seen the far right do particularly well. Now, what's interesting about the Netherlands is that the far right there has been doing well, but again, we've seen it do well in certain elections, then more poorly in other elections. Then we've seen splinter groups appearing. And then what we've seen with the attempts to form a government by Wilders is that there are still moderate or at least more centrist parties that are refusing to work with the far right, in spite of the fact that they have, by and large, copied some of its messages.
Italy, for example, electing a far-right government there, and then people think about what happened pre-war.
If you copy the far right's messages and you copy the far right's policies, how are you discernible from the far right? That's my concern about that analysis.
1930s, rise of Mussolini. Now we have a situation with another far-right administration, Giorgia Meloni there. But Giorgia Meloni taking a different tack to what was expected over the issue of Ukraine. Is this a sign that the far right today perhaps has a different way of dealing with matters?
I think it tells us more about the fact that Meloni has decided to tackle her international politics in a way that essentially creates the least problem possible. So we have to be very mindful of what these parties are doing, not just internationally, but also at home.
And the very fact that we're having this discussion.
I'm just going to get us to another spot in here, I think. This is where he asks for this question.
And other countries doing far more to help migrants, more than Britain. But it's about this perception, isn't it, about the use of the media by...
Hold on, I got to go back a little further.
These parties often benefit from perception, don't they? I'm thinking of the UK, where many people who perhaps vote for the Conservatives at best, maybe a bit further, if necessary, Brexit Party, whatever it wants to call itself these days, they will say that it's only a small island, it's been overrun by migrants, whereas the reality, of course, is anything but. There are far greater numbers of migrants going to other countries, and other countries doing far more to help migrants, more than Britain. But it's about this perception, isn't it, about the use of the media by these parties, dare I suggest, even foreign propaganda elements using social media to sort of push that same message.
Yes, it's not just about the objective reality of migration, but it is also about the extent to which the issue has become politicized, not just in the media, but also by politicians specifically who have really responded to far-right attempts to make this an issue. Whereas we know that voters don't just care about issues by themselves. They also care about issues when these are addressed by politicians more broadly.
Can I talk about Hungary? Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, seen as an ally of Vladimir Putin. His politics, you could say, extreme, perhaps to the far right in terms of the idea of nationalism as something that he's clung to quite doggedly, the idea of putting up a fence to stop migrants getting in, that kind of thing. Is this part of what observers are saying is destabilizing Europe? Giorgia Meloni deciding to actually back Ukraine and the effort to help Ukraine. Viktor Orban, perhaps one of these people who's actually, well, he's actually spoken out against it to say, no, the aid shouldn't go to Ukraine. Is this something that is actually sort of causing fragility at the heart of Europe?
This is perhaps something that is also causing fragility at the heart of the far right itself, precisely because when we worry about far right parties all coming together to destroy the European Union or to push forward some kind of policy, we do tend to forget that they also have very diverse visions, both of Europe and of certain issues that really affect Europe. So precisely.
Okay. Okay. Geert Wilders is a literal neo-Nazi. Not sure who that is. I feel like I know that name. Is he like Dutch or something? Hold on. What are you talking about? Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah, I see. Oh, he's Dutch. He's from the Netherlands. Yeah, I honestly just don't know much about his politics. I know I've, like, heard him tangentially mentioned, but not a lot about him. There's not a lot of information about him in my brain. Okay, yeah, I think we missed one of the parts that I wanted us to look at during this, but I can't remember where it was. That's my fault. But at some point during that interview, she does make an actually like a cogent point about the situation that I think is somewhat obvious, that if they addressed some of the problems essentially with late stage capitalism, that's not exactly how she puts it, but if they were to address some of these issues that are causing people a great deal of problems in their life, then they might have less reason to go and seek out such extreme things to try and solve their problems in their life. Once again, she doesn't say it quite like that, but I'm paraphrasing and perhaps adding some amount of editorial to it. Okay. Let's quickly look at the situation that is, in fact, currently worsening in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Before we move on to... Well, hold on. I'm gonna...
Russia has intensified its attacks in northeast Ukraine, raising fears of the city of Kharkiv could soon be in range of its artillery. The border town of Vovchansk has been heavily bombed. Kharkiv's governor has said that Russia is trying to stretch the front line. Ukraine's commander in the area has been replaced. In another sign of the growing strain on Kyiv, Ukraine has said it'll need record energy imports after Russian attacks on infrastructure. Well, as Russia makes progress in the war, President Putin is appointing a new defense minister, Andrei Belousov. Like his predecessor, Sergei Shoigu, who doesn't have much experience in the military field, but he is one of Putin's most influential economic advisors. And analysts say that may offer a clue as to the Russian leader's desire to fund his military ambitions. Well, we'll have more on the changes in Russia's defence hierarchy in a moment. But first, our correspondent James Waterhouse has the latest on the fighting in Ukraine.
The Kharkiv region really does form the focus, really, of this most significant of ground offensives we've seen since the start of this full-scale invasion 2 years ago.
Hold on. You don't need to hear all of this. Doesn't feel necessary. In fact, I think it can be pretty well summed up that the Kharkiv region, which is in eastern Ukraine, is currently under a great deal of fire. Oh, good morning to you, Midi. And, yeah, it's just getting worse right now over there. Meanwhile, Putin has been doing some changes in military leadership, seemingly to help him actually fund the war, which he's been struggling in recent months to do so, supposedly. Alright, let's move on to this, because in Georgia, thousands of people are still protesting this supposed foreign agent bill, which I think their Congress started to do the... Because in Georgia, I believe that they have to read the entire bill out loud in entirety from beginning to end in Congress before it can be passed. So they started doing that, I think, like a week and a half ago, but ever since they started doing that, just thousands of people have been showing up to protest it, as it's seen as being anti-European and as being pro-Russian, essentially.
I am pretty sure that they will take this law, they will make what they want, and we're going to continue our protest as long as we will be able to. We will continue our protest till the elections.
I want Georgia to live in Europe. I do not want to wake up in Russia. And I really hope that our generation is gonna have a bright future, because I wanna get education. I wanna get educated in Europe, not in Russia.
Well, heard it directly from the protesters. Let's look at just a little more footage of this protest before we move along.
Run by protest.
No, that's not the one. There it is.
Krish, if the Georgian government thought the steam was going to go out of these street demonstrations as a result of that vote this morning, they were wrong. If anything, the crowds that are gathering around Parliament tonight are bigger, it feels like to me, than the ones that were here last night. Listen, there's lots of detail around this piece of legislation. There will be another hearing tomorrow, and there's lots of political shenanigans going on around the scene. But this law, make no mistake about it, represents one thing to the people on this street: their country pivoting towards Russia.
For the thousands of demonstrators outside Parliament last night, this is the Georgian dream. The EU and Georgia, star-circled lovers in perfect step, with no room for Russia.
Russia, you are all competent for Georgia. It's our country, not you. Georgian people don't want Russia. It's a government that want Russia. We are Europe, and we believe in Europe.
But there's another Georgian dream, the country's ruling party pushing through legislation that could set a different tone.
Yep. All right, let's move along. Quickly discuss Russia's decision to change its leader of its military here. It's from 10 hours ago from TRT World. Russian forces continue to... Oh, no, sorry. It's the wrong one. Reuters, sorry. Putin taps economist to run defense, replacing Shoigu. Wait, no, that's not the one. There we go.
Vladimir Putin tapped a civilian economist as his surprise new defense minister on Sunday. It's an attempt by the Russian president to prepare Russia for economic war by trying to better utilize the defense budget and harness greater innovation to win in Ukraine. More than 2 years into the conflict, which has cost both sides heavy casualties, Putin proposed Andrei Belousov to replace his long-term ally Sergei Shoigu as defense minister. Belousov is a 65-year-old former deputy prime minister who specializes in economics and has played an important role in overseeing Russia's drone program. He is known to be very close to Putin and shares the Russian leader's vision of rebuilding a strong state. Meanwhile, Putin wants Shoigu to become the secretary of Russia's powerful Security Council. His new job is technically regarded as a step up to his defense ministry role, which ensures continuity.
For a second, I thought that was a Rolls Royce, but then I realized it's some sort of like knockoff or something.
Putin wants Shoigu to become the secretary of Russia's powerful Security Council. His new job is technically regarded as a step up to his defense ministry role, which ensures continuity and allows him to save face. Shoigu was heavily criticized by Russian military bloggers for a series of retreats the Russian military was forced to make in 20.
Okay. Ugh. Well, Vladimir Putin's trying to shake some stuff up over there in Russia, but hopefully he can figure out whatever the fuck is happening. And I can't keep it up. Seriously though, he just needs to stop attacking Ukraine. It's fucking annoying. Quit being an idiot. And the fact is, he's not just attacking military targets, he's also attacking civilian infrastructure. He's committing war crimes. He should stop. He should probably stop. Alright, now we're gonna move on to the Middle East here. First, we're gonna talk about something which, if you're unaware of, happened recently. But Egypt has decided to essentially sign on to South Africa's ICJ genocide case, essentially in contravention with its ties with Israel, essentially, as they're technically allies, even if it's kind of what do you call it? Well, like hesitant, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, somewhat tenuous. This would seem to complicate things. Oh wait, this is the wrong one. There it is.
Egypt's government has announced it will now support the lawsuit filed by South Africa at the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocide. The Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, in light of the increasing severity and scope of Israeli aggressions against Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip, we call on Israel to comply with its obligations as the occupying power and its implementation of the interim measures issued by the International Court.
Why are we talking about Midas touch? I'm confused. Me, I don't really focus on that channel at all. They play. I feel like their only focus is inside baseball politics stuff, and it's a little much for me. Pretty much all the time.
Justice. We renew our call on the Security Council and the influential international parties to immediately move to a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Well, in January, the ICJ ordered Israel to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. Within that ruling was an order to prevent killing and serious bodily and mental harm to the Palestinian people. Measures must also be taken to prevent and punish the incitement of genocide, allowing basic services and aid into Gaza, and to prevent the destruction of evidence of possible war crimes. But since January, rights groups such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have documented how Israel has still violated all those provisional measures.
Yep.
Wadalia Fahmy is a professor of political science at Long Island University. She joins us live from Princeton in New Jersey. A very warm welcome to Dahlia. So Cairo has been, as we've been saying, a key mediator in this conflict so far. What does Egypt's participation now at the ICJ alongside South Africa mean for legal proceedings there, the world's highest court?
So this is really an unprecedented moment in the history of the modern day history between Egypt and Israel. Egypt has been the most important mediator in the region, the first Arab nation to recognize and formalize ties with Israel in 1979. And here is this moment, the symbolic moment where the Egyptian government puts its foot down on four basic reasons. And the first is the humanitarian one that you cited, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that the intervention currently comes in increasing severity, and that Israel's actions in Gaza, leading to the deaths of almost 40,000 individuals, violates international and humanitarian law and the Fourth Geneva Convention in terms of protecting civilians. They also talk and mention about the systemic practices against Palestinians that are leading to starvation. And the provisional measures that the ICJ had asked for that would ensure humanitarian relief actually be instituted. And so that's at the humanitarian level. Now, this moment has deeper implications at the political level because Israel has not proved itself in the eyes of Egypt as a good faith negotiator. It didn't sign on to the ceasefire agreement, even though it had mentioned that it would. Also, for months, Egyptian officials have stated that an Israeli invasion of Rafah would risk peace ties between the two countries. So it's more so than the ISCJ ruling. It's also a blow to the ties between the two countries because Israel has violated. They've seized the border.
I found it fascinating, like this, because it doesn't even seem. It just is factually accurate to say that Egypt is laying down the law more than the United States is, right? They put down a red line, and now they have clearly violated that line, and boom, right? Meanwhile, back in the United States, where we've said multiple times over and over again that Rafah's a red line, and meanwhile, State Department and other officials are continuing to prevaricate and obfuscate and not actually follow through with any sort of real tangible response, aside from the withholding of a single aid shipment, essentially.
And they've taken tactical provisional authority over the border.
I just wonder, given Israel's ability to ignore those provisional measures, that all-important injunction, that cease and desist order at the ICJ so far, if they're able to do that, given the pressure from South Africa, surely they're able to continue doing that with Egypt in the mix as well.
But this is more symbolic because the ties between Egypt and all of the other countries that had signed on with South Africa are different. So Egypt would be the closest ally, sharing a border, sharing a long-standing Camp David agreement. But also Israel did this one other thing to Egypt in violating security by seizing operational control of this border and creating instability right on the border territory. And so this violation.
That's a great point. It's a great point. Because, yeah, they seized the border that borders Egypt. And they're like, hey, that's kind of supposed to be ours. Oh, for fuck's sake. They're also legally abetting. Yeah, that's an accurate representation of what's happening. I would... yeah, I would struggle to disagree with that. Fuck. Alright, yeah, let's look quickly at some of the protests that are still going on, or that we may not have looked at. First, let's look at this from 2 days ago, where, actually, no, let's go to this one. Yeah, no. First, let's go to this one. This is from 5 days ago. This is an interview that was done with a UC student at the pro-Palestinian rally on the University of Chicago campus. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Some breaking news on the campus of the University of Chicago. Campus police there breaking up a protester encampment.
Police in riot gear arrived on campus early this morning. Joni has been there very early. She has the latest. Joni, what has unfolded since you arrived?
What I love about this is that it is Fox who is doing this interview. We're about to get some very based fucking answers out of this guy.
Well, the campus police, as you said, moved in just before 5 a.m. And these protesters have been holding the line now for 2 hours. There's a bullhorn behind us, so it's very loud. Christopher was on the inside when it happened. Describe what happened in the quadrangle this morning.
Yeah, it was horrific. They waited like cowards until every single student was asleep in their tent, basically. And then they stormed in, maybe 40 or 50 of them with riot gear screaming. They started throwing wood planks, throwing chairs, throwing absolutely everything in any direction to destroy the camp as fast as possible, to suppress this movement as fast as possible. And in fact, one of the chairs that they threw came within maybe 3 inches of hitting my girlfriend in the head. And they had just woken us up.
So it was dark because it was before sunrise. You had a warning that
had no warning. No, we had no warning.
Okay, so then what did you do when all that action was happening?
Oh my god, do you hear her trying to create a narrative? And then he's like, no, that's bullshit. We didn't get a warning. What are you talking about?
That they were coming. It was dark because it was before sunrise. You had a warning that they were coming, but they didn't for a while, and so everybody was.
We had no warning. No, we had no warning.
Okay, so then what did you do when all that action was happening?
I tried to make sure everyone was safe. I mean, it was chaos. It was terrifying. Yeah.
So you were able to get out. I understand that students are being threatened with disciplinary action for being in there.
They gave us some ridiculous notice out here saying that participants in the quad encampment, which no longer exists thanks to them, are facing an interim leave of absence as well as a criminal trespass charge. I have no idea if that's just a scare tactic or if it's real, but it doesn't matter because the difference between us and people like these cops is that there are limits to when we continue following orders. And when you're talking about a genocide visited upon a colonized population of 2 million people trapped in a ghetto that's as long as a marathon and 6 miles wide, when that ghetto is being systematically starved, slaughtered, every hospital bombed, every university bombed, 70% of homes destroyed, 40,000 people murdered, 15,000 children murdered, the entire population on the brink of starvation, we say, and if our government and our academic institutions are complicit in this, there comes a point where we say we're not following orders and it doesn't matter what you do to us because there are principles and there are human lives that matter more than our careers and our futures, and that's what.
I feel like this local Fox station is just having some sort of, what do you call it, out of body moment right now, because this is clearly a white American man, not Hamas, at a protest saying all of the factual things that none of the media is willing to say in a way that I don't think even I could manage to put in such a such a good way. It's just it's hilarious.
People like Paul Olivisatos, the coward president of this university, and these coward cops that come in terrorizing an encampment while people are sleeping.
You've been standing at this line, linked arm in arm with other protesters. What has happened here?
What's happening here? You'd have to ask them. Apparently, they're trying to intimidate us, trying to suppress the protest that is continuing to grow. I think that they thought they could basically terrify us into inaction, into flight. But this is what this university has never understood, has never accepted, has never reckoned with about this student movement, and not just at UChicago, but around the country, is that the commitment to Gaza runs deeper than fears for our safety, fears for our careers, fears for our paychecks. It is a fundamental obligation we have as citizens of a country that is presiding over this genocide, arming this genocide, and as students at a university that is invested in those same weapons manufacturers and that is partnered with the same apartheid institutions that train that military and develop its technology.
Oh my god. Just so good. Just so fucking good. And it goes on for another 2 minutes, but it's mostly just this guy saying a lot of facts and this reporter just being very confused. All right. There are more protests that have been going on, though. This is from 2 days ago at San Jose State, where students held a sit-in to support Palestinians in Gaza.
Student protests against Israel's war on Gaza are also continuing tonight throughout the Bay Area, from Stanford to UC Berkeley. Student sit-in protests have now reached San Jose State's campus.
Yeah, students there have a list of demands they want the university to abide by, but they say the school has not budged. Ground 4's Jack Mulmud has more.
So students here at San Jose State are going on day number 2 of a campus sit-in in support of people in Gaza. Now, as you can see, the San Jose State University administration has already given these students a warning about the policy regarding camping on campus.
Wow, a QR code to let you know that you don't have free speech rights? Wow. What a great tech solution. Jeez.
The policy regarding camping on campus. Some engaging in prayer and others sitting to show support as students protest the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas.
The responsibility of the terrible genocide that is occurring in Palestine, in Gaza right now, is a responsibility that falls on all of our shoulders.
Today marks day 2 of the sit-in at San Jose State. Students say this banner is the only communication the school has sent them.
Which basically says that gatherings of any kinds that are not approved of will be met with requests to disperse.
Students have
for fuck's sake.
6 demands for
these schools. Just do not want this happening. It's very inconvenient for them, and they're doing whatever the fuck they can to kind of rid themselves of the responsibility of essentially just calling for violence against these students, right? They're like, oh, this QR code, you better look at it, because if you don't abide by these rules from this QR code, you might get beaten by cops. So just be aware of that. For fuck's sake. Alright, now let's quickly look at a couple of videos here really fast in succession of one another. This is all footage from protests happening currently in Amsterdam. This both happened today. First one's from 10 hours ago.
If the university board would like to demonstrate that they want to regain the confidence of its staff and students, then they should start by cutting ties and establishing shared governance.
We're standing here besides our law faculty. International law is being taught here. We have a Center for Genocide Studies on this campus. So these are things that as scholars we teach our students. And then when there is a genocide unfolding, there is impunity and no response. So
this is from 12 Rules for Life.
We are here for that. We, as staff, we say we need our institutions to step up, stop doing harm, and stop being complicit. It was a peaceful encampment, and it was beaten down by police, and as staff, we cannot accept that.
Now, 3 hours later, this came up. So this is the same protest, but 3 hours later, they were attacked by police. I love the chair fort. Can you see the chair fort that they've built? It's glorious. Okay, well, as you can see clearly, protests are still going on all over the fucking world. Thankfully, people have just not given up, and it's just so good to see. Okay, Let's talk about this. I found this to be fascinating. This is from 16 hours ago, where Blinken said an attack on Rafah would provoke, quote-unquote, anarchy.
America's top diplomat is warning that an all-out Israeli attack on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza would provoke anarchy without eliminating Hamas. It's Antony Blinken's latest attempt to deter Israel from carrying out a ground assault. An Israeli bombardment in the eastern parts of Rafah has already displaced tens of thousands of Palestinians. Mr. Blinken has been talking to CBS News.
As we look at Rafah, they may go in and have some initial success, but potentially at an incredibly high cost to civilians, but one that is not durable, one that's not sustainable. And they will be left holding the bag on an enduring insurgency because a lot of armed Hamas will be left, no matter what they do in Rafah.
Oh my God.
Or if they leave and get out of Gaza, as we...
I love how he just completely brushes by the fact that Hamas already essentially said they'd put down their arms during at least one of the peace talks that have happened over the last 7 months.
Believe they need to do, then you're going to have a vacuum, and a vacuum that's likely to be filled by chaos, by anarchy, and ultimately by Hamas again.
Yeah.
So we've been working for many weeks on developing credible plans for security, for governance, for rebuilding. We haven't seen that come from Israel. We've been working with Arab countries and others on that plan. We need to see that too. We have the same objective as Israel. We want to make sure that Hamas cannot govern Gaza again.
We should not have the same objective as Israel.
We want to make sure it's demilitarized. We want to make sure that Israel gets its leaders. That's what we're determined to do. We have a different way, and we think a more effective.
I love that he says that and then forgets that maybe he just doesn't give a fuck, but you know, completely glosses over the fact that Israel literally is taking out Hamas leaders in other countries, in consulates, in complete contravention of international law, among all the other contraventions that they're currently undertaking.
Durable way of getting that done. We remain in conversation with Israel about exactly that.
I spoke to our Middle East Bureau Chief, Joe Floto, and asked how much criticism Israel's strategy in Gaza...
Anarchy, huh? Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where Antony Blinken's line for anarchy begins, right? Like, you know? Like, at what point? Like, it's just when they invade Rafah. It's not when, you know, 1.5 million people are displaced across a country with no infrastructure, electricity, water, food. That's not anarchy yet. But if you invade Rafah, whew, that's anarchy. Okay. Okay. If you say so, pal.
I don't want reality.
It's ridiculous. Been anarchy for a minute, pal. Alright, let's move on. We've actually heard from this woman, I think maybe a month ago now. Might actually be even less time. But within the last month or so, I want to say. This woman quit the State Department publicly in protest of the genocide happening in Gaza. I think she was on Democracy Now! When we first saw, or when we first listened to her in that interview, but she's been making the rounds, and I found this conversation to be quite good. Let's listen to this from France 24. This was 10 hours ago, where they discussed with Hala Raharit on her resignation from the State Department, as well as what is currently
She resigned
unfolding.
her post as the U.S. State Department's Arabic language spokesperson. Career diplomat Hala Raharit is with us. Thanks for stopping in at France 24.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
First off, before I ask you about your personal story, your reaction to the strong words of the U.S. Secretary of State.
I'm pretty confident that's not how you're supposed to say her name. Could be wrong.
Progress. It's progress, but at the end of the day, they're still just words, unfortunately. And what we need to see is action.
The U.S., which last week for the first time paused or announced the pausing of military aid to Israel, was that just words as well?
It was not a shift in policy. It was a pause.
That actually wasn't France. That was Amsterdam. This is France. 24. Sorry if I confuse people with that.
Of one shipment, which is significant. And we have to recognize that and be aware that that is a major shift. But it is not a policy shift. At this point, it's one shipment, and we need to see more.
So, Hillary, the war begins October 7th. What brings you to that decision to tender your resignation?
Well, it was a very agonizing decision, honestly. I've been a diplomat for 18 years. I never expected to resign. But it was day after day, human rights violation after human rights violation, that led me to finally decide I could no longer be part of the system, and I needed to get out of the system in order to be able to speak freely about what's really happening. And what's happening is a violation of US law. It's a violation of international law that is keeping neither Palestinians nor Israelis any safer.
The U.S. State Department refusing to comment your resignation, but they did, one of their spokespeople did say that there are channels where, quote, our workforce can share their points of view. There's sort of, I guess, a forum where as a diplomat you can speak out. Your thoughts on that? How does it work when you have a grievance when you don't agree with policy?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I've been a diplomat for 18 years. This is not the first policy that I've disagreed with. But my resignation had nothing to do with my personal opinion. It had everything to do with the fact that I'm an American diplomat, and I've been monitoring the situation on the ground. We do have mechanisms in place in order to explain to Washington what the issues are, what the problems are. And that's what we've been using, and that's honestly what kept me in for as long as it did after October 7th and throughout these last 7 months, is being able to explain to Washington from everything that we were seeing that there was a significant backlash against the United States because of our policy in Gaza, that growing anti-Americanism was fueling a lot of hatred, and also at the end of the day, that even the families of the hostages that deserve to go back home, they themselves are protesting against Netanyahu's government and are insisting an end to the violence, an end to the war. The diplomatic solution is what needs.
They're not all asking for an end to the violence. They are asking for diplomatic solutions, though.
Is it something that is set in stone years previous and very difficult to move? Or are there ways to change on a dime when you have unforeseen events?
Well, this is the role of diplomats. Our role, working overseas, and I work throughout the world representing my government, is to be able to provide information and facts and analysis back to Washington in order for Washington to help make informed decisions. So me, as my role, my last role was spokesperson in the Arab world, I was documenting and I was sharing all the, for example, the images that were going viral of the children that were getting killed, and America was being blamed for those killings. So what happens is, generally speaking, diplomats are able to help Washington. But in this circumstance, what became abundantly clear is that no matter what I said, no matter what any other diplomat overseas said to Washington, the policy remained the policy. And that was what also led me to my resignation.
Is that always the case, or is it specific to Mideast?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to push us forward, as this is a slightly long interview. I just wanted to make sure we hit. I think this is where she starts talking about it.
And the Israelis out of this war.
You penned an op-ed piece last week on the news website The Hill, where you said right now there's an aura of fear and unease among American diplomats. Can you describe more what you mean? What
Absolutely,
exactly? Fear.
Absolutely. Fear. People are scared to talk to their colleagues. That was my experience when I was still on the inside. And I can tell you that it became abundantly clear to me after I submitted my resignation, and it became known internally before it became known externally. While I was still working, but people knew I had resigned, people came up to me and said, I'm too scared to speak out. Many, many people shared those views. Thank you for speaking out. Thank you for doing what you're doing. We wish we could, but we can't, either financial considerations or family considerations. But a lot of diplomats are having a very hard time implementing this policy, not because they disagree with it, but because they understand the ramifications of a militaristic policy. And I want to be clear, this militaristic policy has failed. It has not achieved any of its objectives in Gaza. It has only led to intense suffering for both Palestinians and in the long run for Israelis as well, because it is not creating safety or security, it is creating generational cycle of violence.
So, I mean, that is quite a statement, right? All of its objectives have failed, aside from just creating an incredible amount of suffering for Palestinians and destabilizing the fucking region. To have somebody from the State Department, who was there for 2 decades nearly, quit to come out here and say things like this, whew. The fact is, you can tell that she still has a great deal of, what do you call it? Like, sort of love for the State Department and some of the things that it does, even though he, you know, I mean, just, obviously there's some criticisms of that, but the fact is she has hidden so many good points during this interview. Hold on, there's one other point that I remember her making. I just want to make sure that we get this, because, hold on, is this?
It's very heartbreaking. If our president is saying our bombs, our 2,000-pound bombs, were used.
Yeah, this is it. Okay, hold on, go back.
Week, you're saying it's just words, but is this a turning point, is my question.
I'm hoping it's not just words. I read the report that we came out with, the State Department came out with, that was supposed to be submitted to Congress. And the play on words, for me, is very heartbreaking. If our president is saying our bombs, our 2,000-pound bombs, were used to kill civilians, and we are saying also, documenting that there was violation of international law, that in normal circumstances should affect a policy review and a policy shift, not a pause on only one shipment. This is my point. Yeah. It is significant and it is a start, but we have to stay true to our values as the United States of America. We need to be concerned about our own national security interests and that of a stable Middle East. And a policy shift to halt offensive weaponry is what's necessary, not strictly one hold on one shipment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's all we need from that interview. I just thought it was a great interview, especially with some of that. And the fact is she's 100% right about that. It is only one shipment that has been halted. And the fact is Israel doesn't need any more offensive weapons. Okay? They've done enough, and it's, as it turns out, at least according to her, done nothing in terms of Israel's actual supposed stated objectives. Unless you count the genocidal ones. Anyway, let's listen to this. This is from 5 hours ago. This came out 5 hours after she said what she said. This is where Jake Sullivan sparred with a reporter. Are you saying that she's a liar?
Jake, how about the back of the room?
All right, I'll take you last. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
We're a package deal.
Egypt has said that they will support South Africa's case at the ICJ against Israel for genocide. How is that affecting the negotiations right now, the situation in general, and what is Washington's message to Cairo about this decision on their part?
I can't say that it's helpful to the discussions between Egypt and Israel to try to sort out the humanitarian assistance and access issues, but I do know that Egypt, Israel, the United States, the United Nations, we are all trying to work together to figure out a way forward. So last question.
Thank you. You said at the start of this that you don't believe what's happening in Gaza is genocide. What criterion are you using?
We're using the internationally accepted term for genocide, which includes a focus on intent. And it's not just me standing here at this podium. In the context of this International Court of Justice case at The Hague, the United States actually made a presentation backed up by legal analysis, which I would invite you to read because it lays out all of those criteria.
Francesca Albanese, the Special UN Rapporteur on Human Rights in Palestine, presented one in March. She presented it in Geneva. The 3 criterion she used, citing international law, 3 acts: Israel's intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, serious bodily or mental harm to a group, inflicting on a group conditions of life calculated to bring physical destruction in whole or in part, within imposing measures intended to prevent birth within a group, process of erasure of the native Palestinians. So those 3 things are happening. How can you say genocide's not being committed?
As I just told you, I think the best way for me to answer that question is actually to ask you to look at the laydown that we gave, which... Are
you saying this isn't happening?
I'm sorry, I thought you asked me how I can say it. I'm saying I'd like you to look at the United States'
I just did. I'm asking, are you saying this isn't happening?
Do you mind if I finish answering your question before you interrupt?
Are you saying that she's a liar?
The United States has laid down at the International Court of Justice in writing, in detail, its position on this issue, and I'd ask you to read it. Thank you.
Are you saying that it doesn't line up with that?
Now, because he insisted that we pull up America's written response to the ICJ, I might have very well done just that. And now there's like 25 pages of analysis and then a conclusion. The conclusion itself, I didn't read the whole fucking thing, I'll be honest. But the conclusion is riddled with spelling errors. It is like they got, I don't know, like a squirrel to type it or something. It literally every single line, and maybe I should bring it up on my computer. I only have it on my phone because I was watching this on my phone earlier, and I pulled this up on my phone. This is just unbelievable. It's fucking illegible. And the fact is, they basically come to the conclusion that they're probably, but not to the point where they can conclude anything because we're friends. All right, that's not quite what they say, but it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And for something being submitted to the International Court of Justice, I feel like you would do more to not have this be just complete garbage. Couldn't you use spell check? It's a great question. That was one of my first questions, actually. As it turns out, that is what I was wondering to myself while trying to read it. We're not going to bring it up because fuck it, it's just not worth it. But if you'd like to, feel free to go look that document up and try and read through that. Oh, really, really, really well written document there. All right, let's move on. Got a few more stories left here today. Actually, we're doing decent time. I thought it was slow. It's probably because my back is just so fucked up. Oh, God. Oh, okay. All right, this is from 16 hours ago, where Israel is stepping up its attacks in Gaza as Palestinians flee Jabalia refugee camp in Rafah. This picture pisses me off so badly. Look, this guy right here is being pushed in a fucking wheelchair. He appears to be paralyzed. Or at least injured, so he can't walk. And they're being asked to flee the only place in Gaza that hasn't been completely flattened and destroyed. It is so frustrating. And how many of these people here, would you say, have had to flee where they live since this began, right? How many times do you think? right? Because that's what I keep thinking right now, in this moment, as Israel asks hundreds of thousands of people to leave an area they want to destroy. Like, how many times do people have had to leave their homes, or their, at least the place that they're trying to survive at, right? Like, who knows how many people have already fled the north and had to flee multiple times from the north as they move south until the last supposed safe place was Rafah, and now are being asked once again to leave when you have people once again who are fucking injured, who are starving, which makes it just exponentially more difficult to flee. And the fact is that I am very concerned, and I think we all know that this is what's going to happen, is that at some point soon, Israel is just going to really genuinely go all out on just destroying Rafah, and all the people there, they're just going to claim they're all Hamas. Anybody that was left behind, they're just going to say, no, those are Hamas people. If you stayed behind in Rafah, you were Hamas. I mean, oh my God.
Jesus ain't say that.
مش عارفين وين نروح احنا اصلا.
You don't know where to go.
احنا صرنا نزحف من مكان لمكان وين نطلع.
And now we have left. We don't know where to go. We're running in the streets.
شفتها بعيني بعيني انا
I
شفت
saw it with my own eyes. I saw the tank and the bulldozer. It's on that street. Bulldozer? Why do they need a fucking bulldozer? You can see the attacks are certainly happening. That building right there is completely destroyed. For fuck's sake. How many months now have we been saying? What, 3+ months, at least on this channel. No Rafah, please. It's going to be a goddamn catastrophe. Slaughter. It's like, hello, Darfur. Okay, this is 11 hours ago. From Reuters, where, according to them, the streets of Rafah are emptying out in mass. There was a kid carrying another kid? I missed that one. You say there was a kid carrying another fucking kid? I totally didn't see it. Probably because my eyes were distracted by a different tragedy. There's like every single one of these images is like, which tragedy do you focus on with your eyes? Oh God, this. The streets of the Rafah look empty. I would point out that this is an odd choice of words, considering we're looking at a street that's not empty. Am I losing my fucking mind? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. What is Reuters doing right now? Why are they calling a clearly non-empty street empty? I see multiple cars filled with people walking on the streets, people in bikes, people going into what appears to maybe be a actual shop. Hard to say from this vantage point, but this is not an empty street, and Reuters should really be more responsible with their goddamn captions. This is fucked. I don't have a choice, like everyone else. If I was free, I wouldn't leave my home or my place, but I'm not free. And everyone left. So I'm doing the same. What should I do? Stay alone? I'm scared to stay alone. No shit.
فأنا ببعت كل تحية لكل إنسان صامت في المخيم وكل إنسان بال في المخيم وكل إنسان بدور على البقاء في المخيم. إحنا ضد أي إنسان بينزح من المخيم. لحتى هذه الساعة أنا شعبنا شعب مقاوم وشعب بجد. وأنا هنضمن
Well, I genuinely hope that doesn't mean more people die. That's that's the thing I don't want to see happen. I don't want to see people lose their resilience, but I also don't want to see people die because of it unnecessarily right now. But what, like, obviously, I mean, to some degree, he's like completely right? Like, I mean, they shouldn't have to fucking leave, but I can't even make this argument. It's the fucking worst argument ever. But seriously, like, if you know, if Israel's going to go in there and I can't stand to, I can't watch it. I don't want to watch that happen. I mean, we've seen the pictures of what the Jabalia refugee camp looked like in Rafah. It was just like tents on top of other tents. You know, these people have zero defenses where they were, and it just, you know, I just don't want to see a bunch of people get fucking slaughtered. We've already seen enough of that. Although, obviously, the onus is completely on Israel. It's completely preventable. They could just stop what they're doing, while all of their allies tell them in different ways, some more forceful than others, to not do it. Made onion rings? Okay. Very nice. Very nice. So it was in the fight between onion rings and, was it waffles? No. French toast? Onion rings won. Okay, we are going to watch this slightly positive, slightly heartbreaking story from 7 hours ago. From Reuters, where young Gazans strive and struggle to study as Israel's ethnic cleansing destroys Gaza's education system. Yeah.
All 12 of Gaza's higher education institutions have been destroyed or damaged in 7 months of war. And more than 350 teachers and academics have been killed, according to Palestinian official data. Gazans fear Israel's military offensive has inflicted damage to their education system that will long outlast the fighting. Isra Azum is one of 90,000 Gazan students left stranded, but she's doing what she can to keep learning. The fourth-year medical student volunteers at Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah to help stretched staff deal with waves of patients.
I used to worry about my exams, how to understand this subject, but now our worries are much greater. We now worry about how would we study, or how would we even learn medicine.
I know I said this was a positive story, but it's very difficult to find the positive in it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
City's now destroyed Al-Azhar University.
I come to hospital every day at 8 a.m. to 8 or 7 p.m. I never feel...
This young woman, who I almost want to call a girl because she looks so young that I'm struggling to figure out how it is that she's doing what she's doing, but she's there 12 hours fucking a day right now. Treating and learning about treating people who are being shot and bombed, and it's this sort of like incredible and yet frustrating things is a real paradox.
Tired, because this is what I love doing. I love medicine. I love working as a doctor. And I don't want to forget what I have learned.
Gaza and the occupied West Bank have internationally high literacy levels. But Israel's blockade and repeated rounds of conflict left education fragile and under-resourced. Farid al-Haddad, head of Al-Aqsa's emergency department, also lectures in medicine at the Islamic University of Gaza, now badly damaged.
My home was destroyed in this war, and even my references and books was all destroyed and lost. And this was for 10 years or 12 years of medical experience. All of them was lost in one second.
Haddad and others say online teaching may help in the interim, but it would need international support, not to mention...
For fuck's sake. Fact is, this is just incredible to me that people are still attempting to live their normal lives, attempting to do whatever they can to help their communities amidst all of this fucking tragedy happening around them. Did I miss Duck coming into the chat or something? We're talking a lot about ducks. Well, made it through another one. It's fantastic having all of you here. Pretty sure I wouldn't have been able to get through without you. Anyway, guess that's it for me. So I see you next. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Man, it seems like the galaxy is growing. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, PB, Robot Cat, Pitchforks Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Vincent Morales, Morbius Dragon, and Donald James X. All of these individuals made the right choice. You can too, by clicking that link in chat. Where space benefits unseen by the rest of the motherfucking galaxy await you. Don't forget that.